storm is coming, but I'm prepared. I'll be gone for a while, but don't be scared. Right now, I don't know if I'll ever arrive where the grass is green and we're still alive. I hope I'll see you on the other side. I know that I'll be paying for the ride into the black hole. Sing for my soul. Through the black hole. To make myself whole again. Want the truth and you're having doubts. But if I tell you now, the sun dies out. 'Cause I can only give you my heart. When the darkest clouds begin to part, I hope I see you on the other side. I know that I'll be paying for the ride into the black hole. Sing for my soul. Through the black hole. To make myself whole again. I'll give you my love. Can't give you my love. No, I'll give you my love. Can't give you my love. I'll give you my love into the black hole. Sing for my soul. Through the black hole. To make myself whole again.
Good evening, brothers, sisters, and gender norm resistors. It's Friday once again, which means it's time to go a-plundering in the Geek Vortex. With me, your host, Ollamh. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yes, we're back with another episode of Pirates of the Geek Vortex, and the general topic today is game mechanics or game systems that aren't really used anymore. As suggested by our good pal Rasklin, who is running a little bit late, but will be here. It looks like we've got a Caden in there, so let's go ahead and join in there and get everything going. There we go. Yep. All right. And change that over. There we go.
There we go.
Yes, everything's set up now.
You've got a Caden. Like, I don't just lurk in the channel.
Hey, I try not to blow up your spot too much. You know? Notice I said too much. I didn't say I wouldn't do it, but.
So how are we today?
Doing all right.
That's good to hear.
Had an interesting court order that I had to do for on Fiverr.
Oh,
Basically, for a speech to text program that actually does a pretty good job. It actually does a better job than Adobe Premiere.
Yeah. I might have to look into that then.
Saw a bunch of insane things on Twitter, of course. Surprise, surprise.
As usual. Actually, I think it's hilarious that, I got dragged into a conversation this week about the politics and Trump and Twitter and Elon and all that. And I was like, when the hell did you guys start caring?
Well, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, you can only go so far before it's like, it's really going to start affecting them too. It's like, okay.
Oh, yeah. Well, considering it was my parents who, up until now, have been doing the very staunch, we're Republican, we're conservative, blah, blah, blah. And now they're like, it seems to be that these guys have no idea what they're doing. I was like, oh, you just figured that out.
Well, it takes people a little while to get away from their comfort zone and being like, oh, but this is the party of, this is the party that we've always supported. This is the party that's always made sense to us. And it's like, it takes a while for them to realize that, wait a second, these guys aren't making sense anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's like we said the last Pirates, and everyone's starting to realize, hey, maybe billionaires don't automatically know what they're doing.
Yeah, it's like, hey, when somebody, when somebody's flying on private jets when they're 12, or, they start their first business with a small loan of $1 million from their dad or something like that, it's not their intelligence that got them their money. It's their parents that got them their money.
And then I had to go on to the explanation of wizards and the OGL and all that shit. Because in true Caden fashion, I was just sitting in a quiet room and then all of a sudden just started cackling madly. So, of course, my mother looks over. She's like, why the evil laugh? It was like, so part of my Discord group and I were just talking, and I stopped to realize how much media law that I had to absorb by osmosis, and we're throwing around terms like antitrust and litigation and all this other shit. Like, we've been talking about this our entire lives. So I had to explain the entire situation of, like, the open games license, how they're trying to repeal it, and trying to claim that everything that was under it is now, up for litigation. I was like, no, it's not. It's
so
fun.
they're trying to pull a Twitter and say, or a YouTube rather, and say, oh, hey, so we're changing the rules, and
yeah,
all
so
the
basically,
rule changes go back to forever.
Well, that's the thing, is that the guy who wrote the open game license is no longer working at Wizards. But he has said he is very against this new open game license that they're trying to push out, which is, yes, you can build using aspects of D&D, but you have to pay for it, which is not an open license.
Yeah.
And then they're trying to say that retroactively, everything from 3rd edition on that was covered on the open game license is now their intellectual property, and you have to either pay them for it, or you have to basically strip down your entire system, take out all those elements, and rebuild it from the ground up without any of them, or they're going to keep you in court and basically bankrupt you for attrition.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, it's the same thing that YouTube's been doing with their profanity policy.
Yeah, basically.
Once they changed it, they said, okay, now this goes back to videos years and years ago when we didn't have a profanity policy, period. And those are subject to the new rules.
Yeah.
And by the way, even if you go back and you remove the profanity or anything like that, it's
demonetized. Yeah. It can be a strike on your account.
It will never be monetized again, even if you change it.
Yep.
Even if you correct it. It's like, yeah. It's like, wow, you guys are really, really trying to just burn down any good faith that you still have. Not that you have much. It's like with the increase in where advertisers can go to advertise their stuff. It's like changing the rules and making people uncertain. That's not a good thing. It's like do you really think that advertisers are gonna not advertise on Peacock or on or on like the Hulu ads if somebody says the word fuck once? No.
Right?
No.
Yeah.
Look at half the stuff on Hulu. It's like, yeah, they cuss like crazy.
And that's basically that's what I was saying, when I heard about it off of Charlie's channel and I came into the Pirates channel. It's like, I'm glad that we pad out our intros with music, because now it's like the first 8 seconds.
Yeah, I learned that little trick pretty early on when I started doing live streams, because it's like, yeah, you're never ready right off the bat. There's always little things here and there that you're still trying to put together.
Mm-hmm.
You're still getting your drink poured out or something like that, and it's like, you're never ready right off the bat. It's like you want but you don't want people to click on the stream and be like, oh, it's just this blank screen and nothing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even when I was doing pre-recorded videos, I'd still try to at least like 30 seconds of something, or maybe like a minute and a half little cold open sketch. Just something to keep them interested, but let you get eased into things.
Yeah, I think most of my recorded videos have like a small little cold open and then like a 10 or 20 second intro and with music and stuff like that. It's like that makes it feel more like a professional show, rather than just, okay, here I am, I'm playing this game and let's go. It's like that's very rushed, and it's like I always prefer to try and do things semi-professionally.
And I think that's the balancing act, because you don't want to look like you're just, sitting in front of a camera and fucking around, but you don't want to come across as too stilted.
Yeah, you don't want to script everything.
Yeah.
I've seen some people that very much, oh yeah, they've played the games before and they know all the beats, so they script out all of their jokes and stuff, and it's just like, no. It feels unnatural, doesn't feel real.
Yeah, that's why I never released any of the, footage of the movie reviews that I had done, like, way in the past. Is because I started doing a few of them back when it was like the thing on YouTube, but it never felt natural, because I knew the jokes, I know the movies in and out, and I could point out like little things in the background that I knew were there. But then I realized, if you're just coming in to see like, hey, what's the movie about, and the general, like, why people generally go to reviews, just the humorous kind of, hey, is it good, is it bad, you're not going to want to see all that.
Yeah.
Like, it just comes off as so forced.
Yeah, I wish more people realized that balance, the need for that balance.
Oh yeah. Like, that's I had a guy who was trying to work with me, because I had a group of 3 or 4 people that originally was going to be on my channel, and just one of them, no matter what we did, we even took his script away and told him to just completely improv, but he always sounded like he was reading the most robotic things off of a script, like he was held at gunpoint with a teleprompter.
Oh, jeez. I mean,
yeah, I was like, relax, be yourself. And he's like, this is myself. I'm like, oh no.
I mean, to be honest, most of my reviews and stuff are scripted.
Yeah.
They are 100% scripted, but
I think what I've done now is I've just decided, if I'm going to do them, I'm going to strip them down to where it's just like, I have the staple notes, like the beat for beat, and then just run with it. Just let it go from there.
I can see that. I mean, usually what I always wound up doing was while watching it, I'd have like a notepad open and stuff like that, and it's just like, and the stuff that came to mind, the stuff that just, I was like, okay, just like things that I would normally blurt out while just watching the movie. It's like, okay, jot that down, jot that down, jot that down, jot that down.
Yeah.
So it was more, it was scripted, yes, but it was still kind of that very much off the cuff kind of, this is what I'm doing. It's just,
Yeah.
And
I have one movie that I really want to do it with, and I have a bunch of notes like that, like just the little jokes that I've made. But like I said, I mean, with that group, it just felt like they were following my lead. So like they didn't really have anything of their own to say. And then I tried scripting and it was like, this comes off as really unnatural. So it's really hard. It's an asylum movie too, so it's shitty. Maybe we should have pirates do it. Maybe that's the solution.
That would be interesting. Now, one of the things that I saw on Twitter today was some Australian guy just completely going off on M&Ms and Mars in general, and just the thing that got me about it, the thing that the part that really got to me was his attitude towards his suggestion of what quote unquote alpha males should do. Well, any true
that right there, he just lost all of it.
Yeah, well, any alpha male should go and go to the store, buy the biggest bag of M&Ms they can, go outside and film themselves throwing it on the ground and stomping on it. It's like you're giving money to the.
I was supposed to say, you're still supporting them, and you're giving them free advertising.
Yeah, it's like that is not how boycotts work.
It's like all these misinformed ideas of anarchy that we've had for years now, like the lawless and burn shit down that the 80s painted it as. It's like they've taken that and they've like merged it with capitalism and come out with this weird monster.
Yeah.
Well, like in order to protest, I'm going to support them by giving them my money, but then show them how I hate their products.
Yeah, like the people that were like burning their Nikes or burning their Carhartt stuff, and it's like they've got your money.
It's like it doesn't matter. You can't get your money back retroactively. No, what you can do is you can wear the. Never mind. I'm going to stop that right there. It's like I could say it, but nope, we're not promoting this.
Yeah. That, and then I saw one shortly before, like right before I went for my evening walk. I saw somebody. Fallout 3 was trending. I'm like, what, why? Oh, okay. So it's kind of like, it's basically was, I think it's like, it's an anniversary or something of Fallout 3 this year, at least. And it's like, okay. And somebody was like, I can't get over how, the death claws in Fallout 4 look like true apex predators, and in Fallout 3 they look like sleeping monsters. It's like, I'm just like, yeah, it's kind of amazing how technology and game development can change and flourish over 7 years. It's like they're 7 years apart. It's like, how do you not acknowledge that? It's like, obviously things should be, everything should look better. But it's like, this guy's just like, oh yeah, there's such a drastic difference. It's like, yeah, and?
Yeah. It's kind of like when they made the Final Fantasy remasters. And everyone's like, oh my god, the graphics look so much better. It was like, well, it's been 14 years since this one was released. I fucking hope they do.
Yeah, it's like, there's just... It always gets me how people like... How a lot of people are like, oh, well, this game looks so much better than that game. It's like, you're comparing a new game to an old game, obviously.
If I go a little bit quiet, I'm like halfway distracted. I'm also trying to write while we're doing this.
Oh, fun. Trying to write what? That's the real question.
Simultaneously, I am finishing up an original story that I have been posting on my Fur Affinity for a few years. I say finishing up, even though I have actually no idea when the hell it's going to end. I'm just constantly working on it. And then I'm also trying to write a novel. So, yay me.
All right. All kinds of busy.
You know me, I get bored and my brain goes in like 1,000 different directions at once. And instead of picking one and following it, I just do them all.
But yeah, it's just, there's so much stuff that's been going on that it's just like, yeah, people are just going batshit crazy, I swear.
Well, no one's going batshit crazy. That's the part that people are confusing, is the world has been this fucked up and crazy for ages. It's just now the mask is falling off.
All right, fair enough.
It's the part where, what is it? I had a good analogy, but it escaped me. It's basically like, all this shit that we've bricked up and hidden behind the wall. There's a little too much for the wall to hold anymore.
Yeah. So I've been playing Fallout 2.
Yeah.
And wow, I forgot exactly how fucking broken that game was.
Don't you love when you go back to a game and you're like, holy shit, how did I play this?
Pretty much. That's exactly how it's turning out. It's like the beginning of that, the beginning, like half of that game is just so insanely, if you don't choose just the right stuff, it's insanely difficult. It's like, this is supposed to be play how you want type of thing, right?
Yeah, play how you want, except
play how you want, as long as it's within the confines of these very specific styles.
Right, exactly. See, we were discussing, I don't remember if it was in the Discord or if it was on the actual stream last time, but we were discussing how when I was playing Outer Worlds, that it was made by the same team behind Fallout, and they included a lot of themes. And that is one of the problems I have with its mechanic, is that it's a play what you want, but all the story and several very significant sections strongly rely on you having picked and nurtured certain skills over the rest. And I was like, well, then what's the point?
Yeah. Well, that was the problem with Fallout 2. Specifically, before you even really get into the game, like within the first area that you go to, the Temple of Trials. I mean, it doesn't really tell you anything leading up to that part. It's just like, okay, so, you have to do these specific trials and stuff. And it's like, okay. It's like, yep. So here you go. Choose your, your special skill, your special talents, then choose your 3 skills to tag, and then you go in and you choose some optional bonus perks and go off and go. It's like, okay, so I want to be a gunner who's very charismatic, very high speech, and stuff like that. Thankfully, being charismatic and having a high speech skill is one of the ways to get through it. You start off and you only have melee weapons. You don't get a gun or anything like that. It's just you have a spear and that's it. It's like, okay. And you go through that beginning portion, and it's like, okay, you have a spear, you can stab the shit out of scorpions and ants and everything, and then you come to the final part of the intro, where you have to fight a human. You have to fight another villager. Except for the fact that he tells you, hey, nope, it has to be hand-to-hand combat. No weapons. It's like, I've been using a weapon this entire time. Now you're going to take the weapon away from me?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. And again, in Outer Worlds, they have kind of that kind of weird thing, because they have the weapon classes. So you've got long guns, rocket launchers, rifles, and pistols. But for some weird reason, they've decided to break it up into 2 categories. So like your melee also determines your rocket launcher and long guns damage, and then your pistols are under something else. Makes no damn sense. But then as you go through the game, you realize you really only need to level up your pistol stat, because they're consistently the most powerful weapons in the game.
Yeah. Well, I could understand that if they're saying, hey, it's... Oh, okay.
Ooh. Well, let's turn that down, shall we? Oh, you know what it is? It's because I'm not using my actual mic tonight. I'm using my phone, so it's a lot louder.
Okay, well, I can adjust the volume on my end.
Well, thank you for the heads up, gamers.
Yeah.
Hail.
Hey, there's Rasplin.
Heyo.
I swear not to lie next to my adorable, comfy-looking dog this week.
But no, one of the things with Outer Worlds, I could kind of understand it if they're like, okay, well, your melee weapons are determined by strength, because so are your big guns, like your Gatling guns, your rocket launchers. Those are strength-based. You have to have a very high strength in order to not get kicked back and have the projectiles just go wild. So it kind of makes sense. But yeah, but one of the what really always annoyed the shit out of me with Fallout 2, with that first hand-to-hand combat. Besides, hey, you've been using the spear this entire time, now you're on hand-to-hand combat. Besides that, the guy says this is not a fight to the death. It's it's only we're only fighting till one of us gets knocked out. It's like, okay. Now if you knock him out, obviously you can go forward and kill him, but that turns everybody in your village against you right off the get-go, and not a good idea. But if he wins, you die. You don't get knocked out and get to get up later and try again. No. If he knocks you out, it's death. It's like, I thought this was not a fight to the death. It's like, what the hell?
You only said that so you would hold back.
Sometimes they don't think things through in some of those. I mean, it's a different company behind a lot of it, but look at some of the endings in Fallout 3. Say, if you were to send a certain character to do a certain thing towards the end, Oh
Yeah.
hell, I can spoil Fallout 3 right at this point, right?
Yeah.
Fox. If
would
you send
hope.
Fox to disarm the thing in the nuclear room that would kill you, it disses you like you sacrificed him. It's like, no, you didn't. You sent in the guy who was immune.
Yes, but it's supposed to be your sacrifice. It's supposed to be, it's supposed to be this, oh, you are the one sacrificing yourself for everybody else. That's kind of the big push that they're, and that's why Fox is like, are you sure this is supposed to be your thing? Your dad built this machine. He sent you to activate it. Why are you sending me? This is supposed to be your thing.
Because I like staying alive and you're in no risk would be my answer, but Fallout does not give us that.
Yeah, and you point that out to him, and I think if I remember right, at least it used to be that he would say, okay, yeah, but this is supposed to be your character arc. This is supposed to be, you're the one this is supposed to be your character arc and stuff like this. So
I actually didn't even remember him saying that. I still don't. So I guess it has been over a decade since I beat that game.
I know he
Played
used he either used to say that, or they changed it so that he says it, so that he's kind of like it's a bit more understandable as to why he's like, no, it's not, I shouldn't be doing this. This should be you. It should be you doing this type of thing.
I'm going to file this next to, I don't know, Batman, shouldn't you be the one fighting Doomsday? It's just kind of, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Like, there's brave and there's sacrifice, and then there's, well, that was stupid.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense as to why you wouldn't be able to, why he would be even resistant. But then they have to make sure that everything lines up with their DLC, where it's like, hey, you somehow miraculously survived, but you've been knocked out for weeks. It's like, well, you could have just said, hey, you know what? If I have Fox, we sent Fox, and well, you were caught in some kind of a kerfuffle that happened after that, or something happened. There was an explosion or something. Some part of the machinery screwed up, and you got knocked out, and you've been out for weeks. But no, Bethesda really likes their endings to be very specifically one way. Which has always kind of irritated me. It's like there are plenty of game companies that have open endings, multiple endings. It's like, look, whatever you do, that's your ending. Is that the canonical ending? No, but that's your ending. Congratulations, you found a way not to die. But actually, bringing that up, getting to now that you're here, we'll go ahead and get into our topic for the week. And the idea of game mechanics or game systems that are no longer really a thing. And as I kind of hinted at, mine has got to be the Fallout system, the original Fallout system that just, Bethesda just at Fallout 4 just said, nah, we're gonna make it Skyrim, and we're just gonna use the Skyrim system. Because it's like you used to be able to specify with each level up, okay, well, I want to put so many points towards lockpicking, or so many points towards you know, towards being a doctor or repair or something like that. And no, can't do that. Now it's all just, oh, well, you get 1 point to spend somewhere, wherever you want, within reason. It's like, you know, you do still have, well, you have to have so much charisma in order to get a high enough barter or something like that. But it's like, yeah, it's like you had a good system that was very central and specific to the Fallout series. Why did you just be like, you know what? Yeah, that was a pretty nice system, but fuck it, we're done with it.
It got really quiet all of a sudden.
That's what
There's nothing to add to that.
I was just like, damn, was it that controversial? Shit.
No, it's not really.
I mean, they kind of brought bits and pieces of it back for the Outer Worlds. Kind of, sort of. They you know, it's just their perks. I think the perks is the big one that they changed. It's like now you only have so many perks, and yet, you know, you're putting points into those specific perks, but you don't have nearly the number or variety of them.
Not to mention the flaw system. I hated that thing.
Yeah, that's... I'm not sure where that came from, because that was not one of their original things. I guess even they said, you know what, maybe this isn't the best system out there. Which is fair.
It didn't make any sense, honestly. I'm going to take a huge detriment in order to have 1 perk point.
Well, if that 1 perk point, you know, can change something between, you know, can change you're not going to be able to do this to, hey, you can get in here. There are certain areas that, you know, it would be very advantageous to get into and rummage around in.
Well, yeah, but none of your perks actually raised your stats that much.
It's just, I think, yeah, I think the idea of, the general idea of like, oh, hey, you know, you have flaws and stuff like that, or you have weaknesses, I think that's generally just, I don't know. It works in some areas, other areas it's like, no, just don't even know.
Yeah, it could have been a good system, but like I said, I think the reason it didn't work in that context is like, okay, one of the ones I got 2 nights ago was weakness to plasma, which gives you like not just negative stats, because it doesn't just take off your resistance to plasma, which it already gives you a negative 25% resistance to plasma, which is ridiculous. But then they take down like your dexterity, your endurance, and your focus when people are using plasma weapons. It's like, well, why would I want that in exchange for a perk point, which means I can run a little bit faster, or I can carry a little bit more.
Yeah. I mean, that's just, I mean, that's not having a flaw, necessarily having a flaw towards, you know, and weakness towards plasma weapons. That's having a pathological fear of plasma
and that's
weapons.
what their flaws are. They're all based. They're like, oh well, you've been. One of them is horrible. It's just like horrible. It's you've been hit in the head too many times, so now you have a permanent concussion. I was like, well, that's not a flaw. That's more of a consequence.
Yeah, but I think I think they were trying to, I think they were trying to kind of promote it as, hey, there's at least some kind of a reason for it. It's not necessarily a good reason, but there's some kind of a justification for it.
Well, then you've got the flaws like they can give you acrophobia. And I was like, okay, so a game that takes place in space with a lot of rafters and high spaces that I need to jump on is going to give me a fear of heights. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like, so if I take this, I get 1 perk point and then spend the rest of the game with permanent debuffs. Yeah, that sounds fair.
Oh God, what was it was the second South Park game did that. They had flaws, you're playing as a superhero, so you have to have some kind of a kryptonite.
Yeah.
What I will never understand why they put vampires in the base game. Because they did. They had vampires as a flaw, as a weakness in the base game.
And the blood capsules around, I believe.
No.
Oh, I'm misremembering, or I'm mixing up games.
All of the South Park Fracture But Whole was you could be a weakness, your kryptonite could be the Raisins girls or goth kids or any one of these enemies or vampires, but the vampires didn't show up to one of the DLCs.
That's right.
And I'm like, okay, well, I'll do vampires. What the hell? I haven't seen any vampires. I'm sure they're coming at some point, but screw it. I'll just do vampires. And it's like, okay, your weakness is vampires. I'm like, cool. It's like, I played through the entire game and I'm like, wait. There are supposed to be vampires in this game, right? Never saw a single vampire. Then I looked it up and they're like, oh no, that's going to be coming in a future DLC. It's like, then why did you have that? Why did you have that option in the base game? Have that introduced when you introduce the DLC that brings those into the actual, into the actual game. But yeah, it was just, I'm just like, I felt like I had cheated the game at that point, because I'm like, all right, yeah, vampires. It's like, wait, there's no vampires. What? Okay. If I never have to run into a vampire, then yes, by all means, I will keep choosing vampires as my kryptonite. Why not? So I'm sure you've got plenty of examples of game systems or game mechanics that have come and gone, Rascalin.
How do you mean?
Well, this was your idea. Game systems that have come and gone.
Oh, that is right. Yes.
I'm like,
my memory is going to hell. So I'm going to bring up. There was a version of the Odyssey that had a keyboard attached to it. I don't know if it was the Odyssey 2 or not. And some of its games, even though this was the early 80s, had something approaching cinematics.
yeah, I don't remember when the cinematics really became a big thing, but yeah.
I mean, Ninja Gaiden is what a lot of people would say was the beginning of it on the 8-bit Nintendo, but I never had a Master System growing up, so I don't know how it was doing. I bring up Coleco and Odyssey mostly because they are what I grew up with. Though, admittedly, I don't know where my grandparents put the Odyssey I played as a kid before they died. It might have just been given away to one of my other cousins, for all I know. Probably took out hell playing that thing on their big projection TV, causing screen burn-in. And this was before Zapper games were common. Like, again, the Nintendo and the Sega Master System putting those out.
Yeah. I mean, there's an entire game style and game system that just, yeah, kind of just disappeared after a while. And that's the Zapper games. I mean, you don't really see anything like that today.
Reminded of, oh god, it's the Green Frame game.
Don't think
You
I'm
know what I
familiar
mean,
with-
right?
I don't think I'm familiar with that one. No.
The Star Wars Green Frame game. Okay, basically it was at the time the arcade game, the one that came out in the early 80s,
Yeah.
and had sound in it too. Like, you know, if when you got a game over, you heard Kenobi going, "The Force will be with you always."
Well, that's comfort to somebody who just died.
Right? And they also had a sit-down cockpit version of it. But a lot of people would just play the stand-up version. Same
Yeah.
game either way. Same controls and everything. So that came out for, I don't remember if it was for the Coleco or the Atari at the time. I want to say the Atari.
Oh, I do remember that was,
2600?
yeah. Yes.
And I'm pretty sure I was playing it on an Atari 2600 adapter for the Coleco. That was a thing, yes.
All right. Interesting. But yeah, that was I do remember that one. Yeah, the Atari version was the Atari version was so-so, mostly because of the controller, but
Right, the
Yeah,
single
yeah.
joystick with single button.
yeah. Now the arcade game, I remember loving the hell out of the arcade game. Of course, that was the point where I think that was also the point where my dad was manager of Aladdin's Castles here in town.
Ah,
So, yeah.
I remember before that became a tilt.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time there.
And maybe I was wrong because, okay, I'm seeing versions for Atari and Coleco online. Both have the same game cover, but the Star Wars Atari cartridge looks more familiar. God, everything smells like the 80s right now just looking at that picture.
That just, I mean, technically, yeah, the 80s did have a very distinct odor to it.
Mostly that leftover cigarette smell in everyone's house.
Yep.
Everyone's house, the just about every fast food restaurant. I mean, pretty much everywhere, because, hey, you could smoke everywhere back then. I actually saw one picture that confused the hell out of me. It was this picture of what was apparently it was a McDonald's It was a McDonald's ashtray, but it was like this, you know, relatively nice glass one and stuff like that. It's like, does this bring back memories to anybody? It's like, you know, and I'm looking at this, I'm like, no. All the ones that I ever remember were those like little metal tin things that were in just about all of the restaurants. It's like, apparently our McDonald's weren't the classy ones. I didn't even know there were classy McDonald's, but it's like, okay.
That combination of words is making my brain short out.
Yeah, apparently they used to have like these like glass ashtrays that had the little McDonald's markings and stuff inside. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I remember seeing those. Just the words "classy McDonald's."
I mean, when you're talking about like the tinfoil, like aluminum stamped ashtrays those were the only ones that I ever saw in any McDonald's. I never saw the glass ones.
I remember the brown plastic ones.
Did Burger King have one?
I don't think so.
Oh wait, Burger King was the Smurfs, right? Wow, the 80s were weird.
Yeah.
So not only does each decade have its own signature smell, but it has its own signature color. What is this for you guys? What do the 80s look like to you?
Neon pink.
Boy, I'm not sure. I don't know if I would go with neon pink. I mean, I could definitely see that, but
For me, it's always like got this like yellow tinge to it.
kind of a yellowish, orangish type tinge.
Which again, it's probably from all the nicotine.
From all the nicotine, or from like there's a very specific like couch footrest slash coffee table and two chairs combination that was like, I swear everybody apparently like everybody had it in their house except for my parents. My parents never had that. Which is kind of weird because I have that set now. I picked it up from a coworker like back in 2000, 2001. And I've still got most of the pieces. But it had this like orangish yellowish like farm type scene. Actually, give me just a moment here. Okay. It was this like I said, like a flowery, like farm type pattern that has like a wheelhouse or mill. And it's just like this weird yellowish orangish color. And apparently, like, everybody I know had this set in their house. That
the buffer on my end.
Yeah, like I said, between that and the color that like every single photograph of the 80s turned out with.
Mhm.
Right. Along with some red eye.
Yeah, the
And I
red
think
eye.
that's what gives me mine because, I was born in 1990, so there's no way I remember the 80s. Just every time I think of it, I always see it with this yellow tinge.
Yeah, like I said, like I think like all of the pictures from the 80s have that yellowish orangish tinge to it. I don't know I don't know why. But it's like, yeah, every single one. I've seen pictures I've actually seen pictures from the 70s and 80s of my brother when he was young, of me when I was young. It's like, yeah, all of them have that same orangish, yellowish tinge that's just like, it's like, what was wrong with the film back then? It's like, why is everything... I don't know if they were trying something new and they're like, oh, this is long lasting. And it's like, well, it does last long, yeah, but it doesn't necessarily hold up.
I still want to know how the 90s ended up somehow stealing Dayglow from y'all.
I don't know, but they're welcome to it.
Well, I mean, it confused me because, again, I am a 90s kid. So it was like, the 90s with, like, the Dayglow and the armbands and the leg warmers. It's like, that's very much 80s? Why are you throwing this on us?
You must be blamed for everything.
Apparently.
Like, have you
We're the buffer generation. That's what it is.
Have you noticed how it's like, oh yeah, the generational, about how with all the different generations and stuff like that, nobody mentions Gen X.
Nobody cares about Gen X anymore. Gen X was just kind of like, hey, fuck everything, and then just quietly.
Oh no.
Kinda...
The boomer, the boomer generation, the baby boomer generation. Oh, everybody thinks it's millennials. Oh yeah. The Generation Z, oh yeah, everybody gets blamed for something except for Gen X. Gen X, it's like we try to ignore. It's like everybody tries to ignore that we ever existed. It's like, okay, I mean,
maybe just because okay, the 90s gets a lot of shit, the 80s gets pissed over, but we are the two generations that when we actually look at things, at least in my opinion, we didn't actually do a lot. We are the two most ineffectual generations, I swear to God.
I don't know if it's so much. I don't know if I would say we're the two most ineffectual. I think we're more the ones that are like. I think we're more the generations that grew up and decided, you know what? I'm gonna do my thing. I'm gonna have fun doing my thing. Y'all you guys want to get your panties in a bunch over this shit, that shit, and all the rest, go right ahead. We're just going to be over here enjoying what we enjoy, and yeah that's it.
That's kind of what I meant. Ineffectual was the wrong word to use. Let's say, like, you've got this huge, like you said, Gen Z and Boomer and Millennial shit. Like, they're going to war for each other. Even though technically I am a Millennial. But I hate that term, so I just disown myself from it. But yeah, they're going into war with each other, like, oh, you didn't do this, or you do this, or you don't do this. Meanwhile, the 80s and 90s are in the middle. We're just like, so us, we're gonna still be over here.
It's like, okay, you know what? Hey, we're gonna work towards. Hey, guess what? Pot's legal now. Great. That was a big push for us. It's like, yep, okay, pot's legal. Great.
We just kind of sat there like, no, you don't understand. We need this. For several reasons, but just be content with We need this.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like, nope. You guys want to go to war over all this bullshit? You go right ahead. We're just, we're just gonna get high and say fuck y'all.
Well, I mean, we were the punk, grunge, and anarchy generation, so when it comes down to it, that's just what we do. We look at everybody else squabbling and screaming, and we're just like, no thanks. I can't believe they not only remade Neverwinter, but that they're still releasing expansions for it.
Really?
1, 2, or online?
I am currently looking at Neverwinter, which is the online, and it has North Dark Reaches. But then right next to that is the remastered Neverwinter Nights for Xbox One.
I'd like to say I'm surprised, but I'm not.
I love that the fact by remaster, they just meant they ported it over. Because I'm looking at all the systems and graphics and everything. It's exactly the same. They didn't change a damn thing.
I just say I was gonna say they may have I wouldn't be surprised if they oh hey, we upscaled the graphics. Not that upscaling really, just upscaling graphics really doesn't do shit.
Yeah, well, I was talking about the Final Fantasy remakes earlier. Like the Final Fantasy VIII remake, I was sitting there trying to figure out, remaster. It's like, what did they remaster? This is the same game, same graphics and everything. And then I got a cutscene with the actual in-world sprites, and I was like, oh, I can see his face. Well, that does make kind of a difference.
Yeah, like I said, it's a lot of that type stuff. It's they upscale it, which again it doesn't look like absolute blurry garbage on a more high definition monitor or TV or something like that. But it really doesn't look any better. It's like you're not re-rendering everything. You're not even really changing anything other than you're increasing the size and then putting a sharpen filter on it. That's about all upscaling really does. It's like it really doesn't make a big difference. But that's about all the effort they put into a lot of that type of stuff. It's just like, okay, well, yeah, we're gonna upscale it. Don't you guys feel lucky? It's like, no.
The game I've been wanting them to remake for decades, officially remake, instead of just another fan make of it, has been Castlevania 2. And I know I'm in a minority there.
I honestly have never played any of the Castlevanias, so I cannot comment.
I'm not surprised.
By me wanting it, or...
Yes.
Okay.
I was supposed to say, I don't think he's surprised either way there.
I mean, yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, you've always kind of had a soft spot for the Castlevania stuff.
Totally. I mean, look what genre I DJ in on top of it.
Yeah.
Fallout Shelter. That was a crap game.
Yes. Tried it for a bit, and I was like, why am I playing this? And got rid of it.
Right? I played it for about a month, and then I was like, wait, I can't really do anything else now because I already optimized my vault, and now it's telling me everyone's dying because the vault is too optimized.
How does it...
That's what I was trying to figure out. Apparently, because I optimized the vaults where it can hold a large number of people and still sustain them, it got rated more, and then because it got rated, more people came, and then there's like, hey, guess what? We're just going to arbitrarily decide, and suddenly can't make enough electricity or water for everybody in this shelter.
Yeah, that's just weird.
I'm very glad I did not get to this point. I got burnt out by similar things like the Simpsons and Family Guy ones.
Yeah. And now I'm looking at this. I found this last night, and I don't like. I played the tutorial, and it seems fun, but I don't know if I'm actually gonna go for it. It's called Splitgate. Don't know if you guys have heard of it, but it's basically Portal meets Halo meets Warframe.
Huh.
Okay.
So it's a massive. It's just a massive online multiplayer. It's a shooter, so you've got your Halo and everything. You've got jetpacks and rocket launchers and railguns, but then the big thing is that instead of platforming normally, you have to use portals on special walls in order to outthink your opponents.
Right.
Which, yes, they did at least. They did the bare minimum. They do at least take into account the physics of the portal. So if you manage to portal yourself to go to a very, very high amount of speed and then smack someone in the head with a hammer, it does about triple the damage it would normally.
Well, that's good.
So I give them that. It's like you took physics into account. I will go with that.
And give me 1 sec, my doggy needs out.
No worries.
The problem is they also took into account that, yes, if you put a portal in the wrong place, you can end up killing yourself.
I was gonna say that's my question. It's like, did they introduce the okay, so you if you increase the you can do massive amounts of damage if you speed yourself up using portals and all that stuff. Great. What about if you speed yourself up using portals and then bash your head, and then run into a wall?
They do the same thing that Portal did, where every time you go through the portal, it kind of inches you over just a little bit. So you don't really notice the first 2 or 3 jumps, but then about the 4th jump, you'll miss the portal entirely and just end your momentum. And as far as I've seen, now again, I played the tutorial in practice. I haven't been in a actual bout yet. As far as I've seen, there's no fall damage.
Okay, so they also brought over the idea, probably brought over the idea of, oh hey, you have the long fall boots or some bullshit no, we're not gonna be complete and utter dicks.
Yeah, because I mean, it would be kind of a dick move to be like, hey, go increase your velocity, but then by the way.
I mean, it would be more realistic as far as, okay, well, you're speeding up, and you missed him, and you just smacked into the wall behind him.
Yeah.
Good job, dumbass.
But they give you EMP grenades so you can shut down enemy portals, which, thank God they don't have a time limit between portals. It's just instantaneous. Because otherwise I would be that dick and wait till someone goes into a portal and then just EMP both sides. Be like, now where are you? Stuck in the void, that's where you are. But so because of that, if you put a portal behind somebody and then put one in front of you, they can absolutely frag you through it. Or if you forgot that you have your own portal behind you and one in front of them and you go to shoot a rocket, you can absolutely hit yourself in the back of the head with it.
Yay.
So I was like, oh, great. So again, it seems fun, but I don't know if I'm going to do an actual bout or if I'm just going to wait until I can find some people who I know who want to play it. And that way we can all just get frustrated at each other and we're not getting angry at just random people.
Back.
Yeah, that's...
Welcome back.
Yeah, stuff like that. It's like, okay, there's a certain level of, hey, it looks like fun, it sounds like fun on paper, and just a lot of times stuff like that. It's like, it sounds like fun, it looks like fun, and it sucks.
Yeah, I mean, either it sucks or the way I think of it is like, okay, sure, it's a massive multiplayer online game, but that brings into account that there's always going to be frustration with games like this. You know, oh, hey, that was a cheap move, whatever. I would rather joke around with friends and get frustrated with them rather than just getting angry at some kid I don't know thousands of miles away.
Yeah, agreed.
Like, things like that are just so much more fun with friends. Like, when we used to play Modern Warfare, and my friends knew me well enough to know that if they saw me running around a corner, I'm likely going to end you. Or I'm out of ammo, and if I'm running around the corner, I'm about to shank you. They really hated when I had a throwing knife and I missed, because like, you missed. It was like, if I missed with a throwing knife, there's probably something else up my sleeve, which was usually I had rigged the wall behind me with C4. So they'd run past me and go to aim, and then suddenly the entire wall would explode. I was like, by the way.
Yeah. That reminds me of doing LAN parties with some friends, and God, what was it? I don't remember if I think it was Unreal Tournament that we were playing.
It was, yeah.
And one of our friends had a trick that he would use that he very reluctantly told a few people about.
It was Bill, wasn't it?
Yes.
Of course.
I love it when you always have that one friend that everybody knows.
He would what he would do is he would get a sniper rifle and he'd go somewhere, and he was just nailing people left and right. Anybody who showed their face, boom, they were dead in very little time. But come to find out, he was using one of the teleport pads to teleport up on top of the antenna spire on this tower, up where realistically nobody's expecting anybody to get to, because you're not supposed to actually be able to get to there.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd camp up there and he'd be like, yep, all right. And tink. You just had no time to look around or find out where he was or anything like that. And it pissed so many people off, and understandably so, because it's like, wait, what? How? It's like, yeah, you couldn't do anything. You really couldn't do anything.
Yeah. See, I'm not a big shooter player anymore. Like, I'll play Borderlands and such, but as far as like Call of Duty and everything, I'm not much of that anymore. I just don't like the competitiveness. The culture around it just pisses me off, because if you're not elite right off, I'm not playing that shit. I'm in it for the fun.
Yeah.
But what I used to do back in the days of ye old LAN parties, when Halo 3 released Forge, that's when my friends and my brother, who would always, and my sister, because we would all play together, they would realize that I don't go so much for tactics. My tactic as far as straight combat is grab a shotgun, run at you, and if you don't die in 8 rounds, well, we'll just figure this out. No, what I did was, when we did Forge, I would create a base by just like slamming a bunch of random shit on top of a pre-existing structure, just like fortified as much as I could. And everyone would run into that. They would take the teleport pad, run into my base thinking that's where I'm going to be, only to find out, no. The extremely heavily fortified base is there to contain the blast of the 4,000 tons of explosives that I had rigged up. And guess what? You just stepped on the pressure plate. My base was the out-of-the-way teleporter that led to the stripped-down one that looks like it was already taken over.
I need to run to the bathroom real quick, so I will be right back.
Okay. You know, now that I think of it, LAN parties that kind of fits into tonight's topic too.
Yeah, they're vintage, all right. I miss them. I miss them a
I miss
lot.
them too. LAN parties were a lot more chilled than online, I think.
And the other thing, it's related to LAN parties, just a bunch of friends being at the house, taking turns at the Super Nintendo playing Street Fighter.
Oh,
One
yeah.
on one, who's got winner?
Right? Exactly.
It's like an arcade, but we're not burning through all our quarters.
Yeah, I grew up on old NES, like all that. So yeah, I remember those days too. Those were fun. And that was the days where you could teach your friends about all the exploits and everything, like Warp Zone.
Yeah, but if you did on the versus games, you were giving up an advantage, but at least you were putting in a challenge.
Yeah, exactly. It was okay. Well, if I didn't tell you this would be that I would consider it cheating at my part. So hey, I'll let you in on it. So just let's agree we'll both use it, or we both won't use it, but we're on equal ground. Back when cheating was a thing of honor.
Depended on the cheat, I think. I mean, I saw fights break out in an arcade over Street Fighter use.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if someone brought out Guile.
Yeah, that was weird. Was basically the ones who were like, when is it an exploit and when does it just flat out cheating? When is it broken?
I mean, the closest thing, I think arcades calmed down by the time we saw the Soul Edge and Soul Calibur series really go nuts. And that was, I'm just going to admit, I must have exploited the shit out of Nightmare.
Nightmare and
Siegfried. Yeah.
Yeah, Keelik was easy to exploit if you knew what you were doing.
Well, Keelik didn't come out till later, I don't think, right?
Yeah.
He was like Soul Calibur and later.
Yeah.
And Siegfried / Nightmare, he's been there since basically the beginning, and oh gods. Like, I'm not saying that Mitsurugi doesn't have cheat moves or Taki, but coming up, your crouching swirl attack. It's like they're usually not going to be able to block it or jump it.
Oh yeah. And then we have Yoshimitsu, who came into the series later and was built to be an exploit character.
I didn't have much of a problem fighting him. That was the funny thing.
Yet for some reason the AI was never that bad. Or
Well, I
was
mean,
never that good
players
with
too.
it. Yeah, well, the thing with Yoshimitsu is that a lot of his moves were really, really hard to input. And they, it was that timing aspect. So once you knew him, yeah, he was hell on wheels if you knew what you were doing. But if you were just trying to input them or trying to be sneaky about it, no. Because it's like a 10-button combo for a move that only takes off a little sliver of health.
Sophia had her moments too. I remember only once in an arcade did I ever pull off the thing where she basically takes you all the way to the top of where the screen could possibly be.
Yeah. Don't want to try a Bard's Tale again.
That's one of those. Bard's Tale's one of those games that I remember back in the day, the original, and just I remember it, and it was like I remember thinking, it's not bad. I never really got into any of the rest of them. I'm just like, yeah, okay, I can kind of see the appeal, but
Yeah, like I was playing. I downloaded this bundle a while back. It's got the original and the remasters of the sequels. And I played the original, and they kept it, the point and click text based. I was like, okay, well, this isn't that bad, except for the fact that every like half a foot or so, I get into a fight and just get my ass kicked. And then the second one just kind of lost momentum right after the first boss. So I was like, oh, okay. But maybe I just didn't play it in the right place, it wasn't the right mindset.
one of the games that I remember playing back in the day was that really you don't see you don't really see that style anymore. Is it was the Might and Magic games.
Oh, the memories. Although most of mine started around the days of Clouds of Zine and Dark Side of Zine.
See, I remember playing the one before that. I don't remember what the subtitle was, but it was
Isle of Zine or something?
No, it wasn't.
Isle of Terra.
Yes, Isle of Terror. That was it. I remember playing that one and being like, "Oh, okay, so this is kind of interesting." It was kind of your basic fantasy RPG fighting type game where you use the arrow keys to turn and go forward and stuff like that. But it was real-time combat, so you had to wait for somebody to get close enough to hit them or shoot an arrow at them or something or something of that sort. And like I said, obviously you don't see that very often anymore because, well, everybody's just got straight up, full 3D first-person shooter stuff. But I do kind of miss that style. It's like there was something a little bit unique and a little bit different. It was just like, yeah, that was kind of nice and comforting to play.
I have been trying to find a way to say it because it honestly sounds juvenile when I say it in my head, but honestly, at some point, games stopped being fun. Like, we don't make games for fun anymore, it feels like.
I would agree. I mean, there are some games that are very obviously that are still made for fun. But it's mostly, it seems like those are more the old school game creators.
Yeah, they're like, either they're old school, that, we've been doing this for years and we want to get back to our roots, or they're really indie creators who are like, hey, what happened to video games?
Yeah, it's like, what happened to this type of game? I miss this type of game. So let's make this type of game. Yeah, a lot of them seem to be kind of, I mean, it's almost kind of seems like a knee-jerk reaction, honestly, because it's like, I mean, well, playing Fallout 2, it's like, wow, I forgot exactly how ruthless games used to be back in the day. It was they had to increase they had to make them more difficult because otherwise, well, you're gonna burn through it in no time at all. So, we kind of have to make them challenging and difficult and stuff. But yeah, these days it seems like it's like either, oh no, we're really kind of trying to well, we're trying to give ourselves a fluff job, or we are trying to make it so mind-numbingly difficult that it's just
The way I've been describing it is, our two major genres right now are the Gears of War genre and the Dark Souls genre.
Yeah.
So either everything is first-person, massively online, competitive as hell, or, hey, here's a boss that's just going to absolutely wreck your shit, and you're puny and have a stick. Have fun.
Yeah. I would agree. That is very much how it feels these days.
We were talking about playing Valheim a while back, and you and I both played it, so we both know, yeah, it can be fun. And when you find some people, or you're just on your own and you're vibing and you're building and you're gathering, cool, that's great. But then you get into those boss fights and suddenly it goes right back to that Dark Souls thing where you're like, oh shit, what just happened?
See, for me, the boss fights weren't that bad. I mean,
they're not bad once you figure out the patterns and the gimmick. It's like the first time we ran into a boss, my group, they warned us that we were about to go into a boss, but then they didn't explain, hey, by the way, it's in this specific area, and it doesn't give you any warning that you've summoned the boss, it just attacks you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we just suddenly found ourselves being completely obliterated. We're like, excuse me? I have level 3 equipment? What's going on?
Oh, with the elk god.
Yeah, see, luckily that one, we failed the first time. But that was because, two of us didn't know what we were doing.
Yeah, it's kind of like, wait, what? Who's this big asshole
Yeah, I was
with
like,
the
you told
horns?
me to put things on the altar and then run. You didn't tell me it was going to suddenly come for my ass.
Yeah.
So we regrouped and discussed, and yeah, the second time was really easy because I was like, oh wait, I can see the timing, so I'm getting this now.
Yeah. And the second one wasn't. The second one was pretty all right too. I mean, at least as far as I was concerned, it was. I could totally see how it would be very difficult for somebody who's like used to something like Dark Souls or something where it's like, okay, well, dodge and roll and attack and dodge and roll and attack. Me, I've always played those as an abject coward. I will hide behind this pillar and just shoot you.
Yeah, exactly. I'll hide behind the pillar, wait for you to tire yourself out, come in for the cheap shots, and then run back out.
Yeah. It's like, and oh yeah, okay, that's the right answer. It's like, okay, cool.
And I am absolutely not above, if I'm playing your group, I am not above letting 3 or 4 people tank while I'm sitting there at the flank just doing chip damage. Not above that.
But yeah, that was, for me, it was like, yeah, that type of thing. It's like, oh no, I have, a lot of, and I've seen people online that are like, oh, but that's the coward's way of playing. It's like, hey, I'm still alive.
Yeah, it's like,
Fuck
did it
you.
work?
Yeah.
Yeah, it worked. But I was like, no, there's no but. Did it work?
Yeah, it's like, is my character still alive? Yes? Fuck you.
I mean, the coward's way. Okay, you're talking about a generation, again, we're going to go back to this. A generation, 2 generations of gamers who came up with cheese. Our whole point was like, hey, this is a really difficult boss. Is there a way to make it? Oh, if I stand in this corner, I can do massive amounts of damage and he can't hit me. I'm just going to stand in this corner then.
Yeah. I mean, come on. Look at the fact that the games that we had in our generation were difficult enough that the game manufacturers, the game producers finally started just leaving in the console commands and telling us about them, saying, hey, we understand this is fucking hard right here. Here's the console commands. Hey, you can have unlimited ammo. You can have unlimited health. Here you go. It's like they weren't.
I mean, everybody
like, oh,
loves. Yeah, everybody loves the new Dooms, but I remember Doom and Doom 2, back where if you didn't know how to play the game, you could still get, most of the way through it. But then you get that Baron of Hell who just, tears your ass a new one. And then that's when muscle memory kicks in and you just immediately enter God mode and infinite ammo and go about your merry way.
Yeah. It's like when they had to tell people about them, like, okay, yeah, all right, yeah, this part's very difficult.
IDDQD and IDKFA.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about the generation who still, to this day, writes in the Konami code into almost everything.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, watching Fear Street, when they had that as the kid's tick, I was like, one part of me is infuriated because that is just so demeaning. On the other hand, I know people like that, so I'll let you have it.
I mean, you do realize there's at least one, if not two generations that, like, have seen this everywhere and have no fucking clue what that is.
Yes, and it makes me sad. Especially since they had to explain it in Fear Street, but then they explained it so horribly. I say this. Have you seen the Fear Street movies?
I have not, no.
Okay, so in the second one, which is supposed to take place in the 1980s, I mean, the first one takes place in the 80s, and the second one goes back to the 70s, but in the first one where they are in the 80s, they have a little brother, and every time he gets into a scene where he's scared or he's not confident, he starts repeating the Konami code to himself. So, like, he wants to ask a girl out, so he starts saying the Konami code. He's getting attacked by a slasher, so he starts saying the Konami code. And eventually his sister turns around. She's like, why do you keep saying that? What the hell is that? Because it's the Konami code, man. It's the ultimate code. It gives you infinite lives and everything. It unlocks all the levels. If you're going to make the Konami code your thing in 1984, at least give us the proper origin for it.
Yeah.
True. Also, that's been made into a song by the Gothsicles.
Yep.
And they just keep saying the code out loud and then screaming Contra 30 lives. This from the group that made the song I Sniffed the Power Glove.
Was it Power? What is that group that I have? I think it's Power Glove. They name themselves after it, and then they do remixes of classic game themes. So they did a bunch of the Final Fantasy stuff, but then they also did songs like Left 4 Dead. They did an original song for that. I'm gonna have to look that up. It's on my other computer. I don't feel like logging into two computers right now.
Lazy.
What?
Lazy.
I am lazy.
Well, at least you'll admit it.
Well, I'm on my little laptop right now and my phone, but my little laptop only has 4 RAM, which is horrible. So I use that mostly when I'm writing and I don't want to worry about like Second Life or Discord or anything. But then my big laptop, I just recently put back on my desk, so now it's hooked up to my monitor and my keyboard and this like 7 USB outlet that I got. I just don't feel like pulling it out and booting it up.
Fair enough.
I am comfy on my couch, damn it.
You got a couch? Man.
I mean, it's a love seat. Yeah, my room is actually set up to where I can be like lazy as shit.
So it's not a one-time thing. You design your life around being lazy.
No, I just know that I'm going to have periods in my life where I don't feel like doing shit or can't, like the surgery that's about to come up.
Yeah.
Yay for that. So I was like, okay, what is the most efficient use of my space? So my love seat is right in front of my entertainment center. My entertainment center has all my game consoles and my big-ass TV, my record player, my reel-to-reel, and then I have my desk, which has my laptop and my monitor and all of that.
Yeah, see, I used to have back in the day I used to be really, really horribly lazy. And
Yeah,
to
well,
the
it's also, I have to work with the amount of space of maybe a small studio apartment.
yeah.
So the room is separated between like living space and then my bedroom. So
Yeah. No, I actually used to have like a full-on recliner in front of my computer. I mean, like that was where I did everything. I had it so that, like I said, I had like a recliner and footstool in front of my computer, the whole 9 yards, and finally just got to the point where it's like, okay, the recliner is dead, and I really don't feel like replacing it with another one.
screw it. I will boot it up, but It might not even be on this laptop. It might be on my old laptop. Which, even if I can find, I don't even know if the battery is still good on it. That's the whole reason I replaced it, is because the battery went to shit. It would not charge, and even when it was plugged in, it would just suddenly turn off and tell me the battery was shot. Like, okay, well, I'm getting rid of you.
Yeah.
But I didn't manage to transfer the hard drives, so occasionally I have to pull it back out and go searching for things on it.
Gamers did say he would be here in a bit, right?
He did.
It's running
things
Canada
come up.
time.
Oh, right, Canada time. So if
Okay.
it would be like 15 minutes for us, it's going to be like an hour and a half for him.
Reminds me of the term that me and my sister and my mother used for concerts. My sister used to be a huge Hanson fan, but every time they said, hey, we're going to start our concert at 8 o'clock, it would actually start off at like 10. So we just started calling it Tulsa time. And like, what's Tulsa time? We're like, anytime they say this specific time, it's going to be like 3.5 hours later. So just prepare for it.
Yeah, a friend of mine used to run a very, very consistent 15 minutes late. Anytime he would say, hey, we're going to be, okay, we are leaving this place at this time, so be there. It's like, okay. And all of us would always be there right on time, right at the time he said. It's like, yeah, he's going to be another 15 minutes.
Yeah, one of my friends does that. If he says, hey, let's hang out at noon, I just sleep in, because inevitably around 2 o'clock, I'll get the message of, hey, I'm on my way. It'll be 15 minutes. 4 o'clock, he rolls up. So, you know, anybody who's not familiar with him, they get the message for me, and they'll be like, oh, he said he'll be here in 15 minutes, and then I just don't move. They're like, shouldn't you be, like, getting ready? I was like, nah. I got time.
Shouldn't you be getting ready? Nah, not for that asshole. I've got time.
Oh no, I will absolutely say not for that asshole. He and I have a very hostile friendship, shall we say?
You have a hostile friendship with someone? I never would have guessed that.
What? Me? Hostile? Perish the thought. No, not just hostile, it's competitive. Because he likes to try and one-up me. The problem being he doesn't think it through, so even if I'm not actively trying to beat him, he just makes himself look bad.
Okay. That's a bit different. I was gonna say, I'm like, a hostile friendship. That describes most of the friendships that I have with people.
No, like, see, yours and mine is playful banter. And yeah, we have our moments where we're at each other's throats, but that's not a hostile friendship. That's just us.
No, see, what I mean by a hostile friendship is, you know, somebody that you will absolutely just, oh yeah, you have no problem saying hostile things towards. You don't mean it. It doesn't mean that you are hostile towards them. But anybody looking at it from the outside would be like, wow, how do those two, why are they even talking? They obviously hate one another. It's like,
And that's exactly what it is. So see, in high school, we met like way back in freshman year. I don't even know what happened, honestly. I have no idea what made him hate me. But way back when we met, I originally thought he has a twin. And I didn't know it because I only ever saw them once a year at the marching band rallies. But occasionally it would be him, occasionally it would be his twin. So I never knew which one it was. And the problem is, his twin is deaf and autistic. He's only ADHD. So to me, this guy has a wildly different personality every time I see him. But either way, I tried to be friendly. I tried to be friends with him. And then he met me in school, and for some reason, he just decided that he's going to, push and call me all these names, loser, whatever, and bully me and do all this shit. And I just did not take it. I was like, I don't know what the fuck your problem is. I don't know what I did to piss you off, but I'm not playing this right now. And so throughout high school, it just got like worse and worse. So at one point, I had made a friend. And by made a friend, I mean, for some reason, somebody decided it was a good idea to have bare knuckle fist fights outside the school as like just a thing that we do. And I got in on one, and there was a little Vietnamese girl who was whipping everyone's ass. So I got in on it, and I managed to fight her to a draw. And then we became best friends because we kicked each other's ass. Little did I know that apparently this other friend of mine either at that point was trying to or had already dated her. So we became best friends, and he sees it as me moving in on her.
Oh.
Never mind, they had already broken up. They literally dated for 2 days. She told me this flat out. She's like, yeah, I know him. We dated for like 2 days, and I broke up with him. I was like, oh, shit, okay.
Yeah.
But he thought it was me moving in, so he's like trying to be machismo and, trying to be the bigger man. I was like, what the fuck are you doing right now? I was like, I don't know whose honor you think you're defending, but you don't have any issues with me. Like, I don't care. But it got worse as we got in, so nowadays he'll introduce me to potential girlfriends, which is something you don't do if you don't want to be embarrassed.
Yeah.
So he'll sit there and be like, oh, yeah, I do this and I do this. And back in high school, I was king shit. Everybody loved me. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I'll just ramble off the embarrassing stories, and then he gets all mad. He's like, why do you got to tell people about that? It's like, why do you got to pretend to something you're not?
Fair
And he
point.
eventually admitted one day that he gets mad because when I start telling the embarrassing stories about him, he doesn't have any embarrassing stories about me to fire back with. I was like, well, see, here's the difference. It's not that there aren't any embarrassing stories about me. It's that A, you either weren't there, or B, I have no shame. So you can tell that embarrassing story and I'll own up to it. I don't care.
That's generally a good way of doing things. It's just be like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah. It's like, hey, I screwed up. Let's move on. Still trying to find that band, but apparently my iTunes doesn't want to launch.
It's iTunes. What do you expect?
So we do this the hard way, and we go in through the folders themselves. Oh man, I have music from Crucial Taunt. I totally forgot about that. It is Powered Love.
Okay.
Yeah, and they've released albums, Metal Combat for the Mortal Man, Saturday Morning Apocalypse, Total Ponage. Yeah, and you've got shit like Tetris, Mute City from F-Zero, the Power Rangers theme. Or Omni Shred. We're gonna need a bigger sword. That's a good one.
So, all right, to change up the topic here. Flip the top. I'm gonna flip the topic here.
Let's flip the topic.
So instead of the things that are dead and the game mechanics and systems that are dead and gone, the game mechanics that are still around that you wish would go away.
You mean like everything we've been talking about so far?
Well, kind of.
You mean like loot boxes?
Loot boxes, yes.
God, loot boxes.
Yeah, loot boxes would definitely be one.
Pay to win DLC? God, I hate that.
Substitution of QuickTime events for actual gameplay?
That was
Yeah,
the
nice.
one I was gonna go with. Was QuickTime events.
QuickTime events have their place, just not 90% of the game.
Right. Put it in a grapple or put it in God of War did them right. Other games, it's like,
Yeah.
the QuickTime event ends eventually, right?
Like, if you have me do a QuickTime event to actually make a quick decision or react to something, I'm okay with that. But if I have to do a QuickTime event to walk, it's not fun.
Because I mean, for me, it's like QuickTime events have just really turned into just. I mean, from the very beginning, they were just like just general annoyances. It's like, okay, that's actually the thing is that QuickTime events have been in gaming for so fucking long. I mean, there was an entire game back in the 80s that was nothing but QuickTime events. Do either of you remember the game?
I'm trying to think of a specific one.
Ditto.
I am thinking specifically of Dragon's Lair.
Oh, yes, Dragon's Lair.
It was nothing but QuickTime events.
This is true. Yeah, as much as we like to look back on it fondly, and you can play it nowadays and you're right, one giant QuickTime event, playing that thing back then, you're trying to observe the details, but you miss that flashing light, you are dead. Grab another sack full of quarters.
Yep.
And make sure that you know what you're doing.
I mean, I remember back in the day, there were people that, they knew everything about it, and it would still take several several tokens to get through the thing. It's like, but it was also the first game that was like, that was done by, it was, who was it?
You mean the guy who drew everything for it?
Yeah.
Don Bluth.
Yes. Because he had, if I remember right, he had been working for Disney. And was like, and then saw these games, and he's like, well, why don't you let me do graphics for it? It's like, I can draw the graphics for it, and they're like, well, how, but that would take so much. And it's like, well, let's see if we can do it. And basically he's like, yeah, we can do it. It's like, look, you just have it so that it goes, I'll draw out all the animations. You have, the player has to make a choice, and then it goes to one of two. Now, granted, that game also came on a fucking laser disc. That was what was inside the cabinet, was a big ass laser disc player.
Just the fact that we can still say cabinet.
Yes.
God, I miss saying that. Screw the console wars. Remember the cabinet wars? Arcades used to be fun. Arcades used to be, arcade
Right.
cabinet, pinball.
Like, and the worst part about how arcades died, it gets weird. Like, you could say you could say that people stopped going to them because online gaming was a thing, and there is some truth to that. But I also remember every arcade I went to towards the end doing the same thing, not updating and maintaining their stuff.
Oh yeah, no, they insisted on having like the one or two cabinets they've had since they first opened. Or
And the Street Fighter you can't block in because you can only move in one direction.
yep. Or they would get a quote unquote recent cabinet, but then by the time you actually got to it, just the shit's already been broken, and half the buttons are gone. Are we gonna replace it? Nope. Play it like that.
Yeah. I mean, that's
And
one
I
of
don't
those.
mind. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say that's one of those. That's kind of one of those situations where it's like, well, it's a little bit of column A, a little column B. It's like with fewer and fewer people coming, their money is gonna get tighter and tighter.
It's true.
So all of a sudden, it's like, well, they can't afford to update the games or repair the cabinets because most of their income is now going pretty much just towards making sure they have employees.
I guess I just look at it and like, I enjoyed arcades. I kept trying to patronize arcades. I even go to the one that's in Indianapolis every time I head to Gen Con. And I even would stop into the one here in town frequently. As frequently as I would go to the Champaign Mall anyway. And yeah, it's
not the same.
it really isn't. I mean, you can drink at home, but bars are still a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Arcades aren't necessarily crazy expensive, especially if it's just 50 cents a play. So I'm like,
And I think some of that is what changes the culture for me, is that's arcades when I grew up. You had your bag of coins, however much you had saved up. You'd pump in the quarters. There was always someone to play with. You could always find some guy who's been there forever or some kid who wanted to play. You always had a partner to either tag team or go against. You never had to worry about that. You had a social circle. Then suddenly they changed from coins to cards, so everything tangible about the game just kind of vanishes. Now we're just playing on emulators, which you can get at home, so the only thing you're coming for is the feel of a cabinet, except it doesn't work the way it's supposed to because it's not the actual cabinet. It's just a controller and an emulator.
and then you've got for the social aspect, maybe.
Yeah, and then nobody wants to be social anymore because now they're focusing towards the gotchas and the ticket games and the crane games, which those are all solitary things.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
I'm great at claw machines. Does that mean that I'm going to have a crowd and be like, oh my god, he's so good at this? No. Nobody gives a shit if you're good at the claw machine.
Well, that, and once the internet really got going and online gaming really became a major thing, the whole social aspect wasn't unique anymore. You could find people to play whatever, to play the better looking, better controlling games at home, just in a random lobby and online. It's like, hey, you can, and people started forming those connections with, hey, I don't have to worry about, my friend Bob, who just got a job. Now he's not able to be there at the same time I'm there. It's, there's always, there's always somebody there looking for a match.
Well, and there's also another downside, though, to the modern day. Okay, we remember there was a barcade here in downtown Champaign for a bit.
Yeah.
I went in with a friend, and my God, half the games had no working buttons. And this was less than 2 years ago. I'm like, it hadn't been there long. It's like, you'd think the games would be working. No. And so as a result, I just didn't see the appeal in staying. It's like, I'm sorry, but I've been waiting for this, and you've done it so badly that I'm walking away.
Yeah. I mean, and once and Caden actually touched on something with the idea of you're no longer using coins, you're no longer using, you're not even using
Yeah.
tokens, let alone quarters and stuff. That hey, you can use these, sure, to play games, but it's not like that's the only thing that you can do with these things. I mean, that was the benefit of having quarters. It's like, okay, well, if I have $10 in quarters, but I want to go and get a soda, so there's 50 cents. Oh, I want to get a sliced pizza, so there's $1.50. So now hey, I can use $8 to play a game and then go get something to eat with the remaining money.
Exactly.
Once you go to hey, this is a specific thing for our establishment and just to play games. It's like, okay, but so now I have to put money on my card, and then if I have to have money set aside if I want something to eat or something like that. It's like, that's just, yeah, you're...
I am, in fact, as we speak, holding a small bag full of old arcade tokens from the old arcades around here.
I'm pretty sure I've got a bag of tokens somewhere.
Because what did I do? I saw that I had a shit ton of arcade tokens. I was like, you know what? I'm not just going to get rid of these because no. So I decided if I do tabletop, these are going to be my gold pieces.
That works.
And see, the thing about tokens was, sometimes you had arcades which had specific tokens that only worked in that arcade. But for the most part, they were all a uniform thing. So if you got tokens from one arcade and you didn't use them all and the arcade closed, or you just didn't feel like going to that one, you could take them to any arcade.
Yeah. They had a uniform size and weight to them, so it's like, it's not actually something from this arcade, but they're never, the machines aren't gonna realize that.
Exactly. And, a lot of the arcades, like you said, the tokens didn't cost that much in the first place. So even if you started exchanging for tokens, what are they really losing out on if they've got like 140 people coming in a day and 90 of them pay for tokens and maybe 10 kids use other arcade tokens?
Yeah.
Negligible loss.
Well, and by the time the majority of the places started using tokens, there weren't a lot of places that were independent. So it's like one company owned most of everything.
Oh yeah.
I
mean,
think,
like, I'm looking at the tokens right here. I've got some from a local amusement park. Then I've got some from an old arcade. Then I've got some from Namco themselves.
I've got some left over from a barcade about 5 years ago in Chicago that I kept meaning to use.
Yeah, but about the only one of these I couldn't use at another arcade is one from an old arcade in an old mall around here called Aladdin's Castle.
The
And that's
classic
because...
chain.
Huh?
The classic chain. We even had them in Mattoon.
Yeah, exactly. But they actually used a specific hexagonal shape for their tokens. So you couldn't use those in other machines.
You could use them in a Bally's, but they had the same parent company.
yeah, it was Bailey's. Bailey's.
Yes. That's how it was pronounced? I always thought it was Bally's.
I don't think so.
Okay, I only ever really ran into the one in St. Louis.
Wait, I thought you said you went to the one here.
No, the Bally's. I mean, there was Bally's Aladdin's Castle, yeah, but there was also a flat-out Bally's, and no Aladdin entered into it.
Okay.
Whenever I saw Bally's, I would always see Aladdin's Castle attached to it, except when I went to the one in St. Louis, and that was just Bally's Entertainment Center.
Okay.
I find it funny, I also have proof of one of the local, I don't even know what you call it. They were one of the first ones who wanted to do like an arcade and laser tag, mini golf, rides, bumper cars, all that.
Sounds
So
like
what-
Tilt.
Yeah, it wasn't really like an amusement park, but it's not just a straight arcade. And it's Funland. And that one's hilarious because they tried to compete with Chuck E. Cheese by launching their own animatronic mascot named Funky. And then
Oh,
3
no.
years later, what opens up across the street but a fucking Chuck E. Cheese?
Well, the Tilt in St. Louis, I don't know if it was part of the chain Tilt or not, took up the entire basement of a mall. I do mean the entire basement, and had a mini golf course down there. No animatronics. And my gods, I miss that place. But it closed like 05, I think.
And see, this is what people aren't getting nowadays about places like arcades and this. This was our social. This was how we met people. This was our safe place, to use a better term.
Well, there wasn't weren't a whole lot of things to do other than arcade.
Right?
I mean, it wasn't like they were so awesome and amazing that everybody went. There was
What else
no
were you gonna do?
choice. There was, if you didn't already have a friend whose house you could go over to, it's like there was really no other way of
And sometimes
really
it wasn't even that. It was, if one of you was a latchkey kid and you had a group of friends that always wanted to, hang out, you weren't about to take them to your place when nobody was home and like have a huge group of kids. So what are you going to do? You go to an arcade.
Yeah. Well,
Like you said, you grab a game, grab something to eat. Everybody's hung out. We're the streetlight generation. We didn't have to be in until dark.
Yeah. But like I said, where else were we gonna go?
Yeah, your options were parks, the mall, arcades. These aren't nostalgia. This is just us going, hey, why do you guys not realize how powerful these things are?
Yeah.
You know what's weird? Do you know where my friends used to go? And I would go occasionally with them? Is the old train station in Mattoon that had long gone defunct, but you could just freely enter it. Just because it looked like something out of a big city.
Yeah,
And they would mostly smoke pot there, but I mean, I wound up being the lookout since I didn't.
I mean that was pretty much the alternative, the only actual alternative, because it's like, you could go to the mall, but you're just walking around, and there's a 50-50 chance that there's going to be some security guard that's takes his job way too fucking seriously, and is like, "What are you doing here? You're not patronizing. You're loitering. Get the hell out of here."
You're not buying anything. That's because I don't have money.
Get out until you get some money. It's like, yeah, I mean, so it was like, yeah, it was arcades or some random abandoned building that that nobody gave two shits about. So it's like, yeah, okay, we can hang out here.
And it gets even worse if you're like me and you grew up in historic town, because then chances are half the abandoned buildings are historic buildings.
Yeah. I remember Bailey's Aladdin's Castle was one of the things that a lot of that I'm not sure how many people really realized it. They actually were connected with Six Flags.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember going up to the Six Flags Great America up around Chicago. And for the longest time, I just thought Mom and Dad just decided, okay, yeah, we're gonna have a cool we're gonna have a cool day trip. It's like, okay, cool, all right, yeah. It's like, and then then afterwards I realized, I'm like, oh wait, no, that was actually because Dad was working for Bailey's Aladdin's Castle, and they're like, hey, your store won this prize, so there you go. here's tickets for you and your family and your coworkers and stuff like that, and your employees. And it's like one other employee wanted to go, so it's like I always wondered. I remember always wondering. It's like, why the hell is he with us? That's weird, isn't it? What? I mean, it's like I knew the guy because, you know, again, when Dad went to work at the at the arcade, I usually went with him just to hang out and play games. But yeah, it was like, okay. But yeah, then if I remember right, Bailey's Aladdin's Castle was actually bought out by the parent company for Tilt.
So that was what was happening, huh?
Yeah.
I honestly didn't know what was going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, because they actually wanted to hire my dad on, and my dad's just like, you know what? I've seen what happens when arcades and stuff just stop making money and all that stuff. I think I'm ready to move on to something else. I think I've done all I want to do with the whole arcade scene, and yeah, I'm gonna move on. PCs are becoming more of a thing. I'd kind of like to get into that, so yeah.
It's kind of what happened with my dad. When I was growing up, he was working 2-3 jobs, going to college, but he worked in hardware stores, so like Lowe's, Home Depot. And then he just decided, you know what? I need to make some more. I've always liked computers. Let's just go into, well, what was his title? Database management. Yeah, so he ended up as a government contractor. It's like, oh, okay. That's a hell of a lateral shift.
Yeah. No, my dad wound up getting a job over at Best Buy when they opened up. And he eventually became one of their PC repair guys before they had the Geek Squad.
Before, when they actually had people who knew what they were doing.
Yeah. Then when they brought in the Geek Squad, they're like, "Oh, hey, you can be part of this." He's like, nah, just no." I think it was about the time that one of the guys that was working under him was like, I don't remember what the issue was, but he like completely, just absolutely fucked somebody's computer up, and he's like, why did you do this? This is not procedure. This is just, no, this is all wrong. And that was the point where he's like, yeah, if you're gonna hire this quality of people, nah, fuck you, I'm done, I'm out. And then he went to work at Micropace building custom ordered computers. That was always fun because he's like, okay, basically that's where he really like expanded his understanding of what a computer needed in order to do what. Because like he was building PCs that were able to do, you know, 3D graphics, computer animation and stuff like that. And yeah, he loved that job. That was kind of like his dream job. Because like I remember the first piece, the first actual like home computer that we got was the old TRS-80.
Oh wow, I remember the code books that came out for those.
Yeah.
How to make your own game for this.
Yeah, because it was like they didn't actually sell like proper games on discs or anything. It was like, nope. Here's the code for, you know, oh, you want to play this game? Okay, here's the code to program it. That was how they sold games back then.
Game is confusing me by the trailer. It says it's a rhythm game, but I'm getting Quake vibes.
Oh, literal Dance of the Dead.
It's called Metal Hellsinger, and it is meant to be a first-person shooter, but it keeps saying that apparently you fight to the rhythm of the music.
Oh gods.
I
You're
was like,
talking like-
okay, and then I'm watching the trailer, but they're just using a generic heavy metal track for the trailer. They're not actually showing you like what they mean by that, and it just looks like Quake.
I see when you said that, first thing I thought of was something like Beat Saber.
I was thinking more of Crypt of the Necrodancer, but like the description says, slay to the rhythm of metal and vengeance on an infernal journey through the 8 hells. Make them fear the beat. Metal Hellsinger is a rhythm FPS bursting with demons, badass weapons, and heavy metal music. But nowhere in that trailer did I see anything that would suggest that you have to fight with the rhythm of the music.
Yeah. That is one of the issues with a lot of trailers. It's like when they do show actual gameplay, it's like you don't know how it's controlled. You don't know what you have to do to achieve what they're showing.
The one thing I hate about trailers, like, I get it, it's marketing, you have to do it, is that it always makes the game look so much smoother and sleek than it actually is.
Well, unless you're like looking at an E3 demo or something like that.
Well, I mean, that's usually beta testing. Then you get an accurate idea of what you're, like, getting into. I'm talking about when they release the finished game and then you watch these guys blaze through levels and you're like, there's no way.
Well, see, I think the problem with E3 is it's the most of the E3 demonstrations is like, okay, they're demonstrations by people who don't know what the fuck they're doing. It's like,
yeah.
if they actually had like, oh, okay, so we've got this, this person who helped make the game and understands, or this person who play tested the game or something like that. It's like, all right, they're doing the presentation. It's like, they would be awesome at it. But their presentation skills are probably crap. So you have the guy who's good at talking in front of crowds.
But he is crap at playing games.
Yeah, but it's like, yeah, but he doesn't know what the hell the game is about. He doesn't know what to do.
See, then I found another one. It's been interesting me for a while, but it's one of those few games that you read the reviews for it, and you know exactly what you're getting into. So it's called Agony, and it's supposed to be, according to people, the goriest and most sexually explicit game they've had in a while. I was like, okay, well, that's a hell of a brag.
I've seen clips of this, I think.
Yeah, and it apparently came out, I think, 2016, 2018. I was like, okay, that's not only a hell of a brag, that's a hell of a brag for way back when.
Yeah.
And the trailer makes it look great. The few clips of gameplay that I've seen make it look monotonous. But then every review is like, so ever since this came out, it's been unfinished. It's a glitchy, buggy piece of shit. They spent 4 years patching it, and now you can't play it because it crashes on startup, and they're still charging you $20 for it.
Oh, jeez.
So someone's like, is Agony the name of the game, or just someone describing the game?
That's a good question.
So it's sitting there on my wish list, because I'm like, if it ever actually runs, maybe I'll give it a go.
I will say this. I really wish fewer games would do alpha releases. Like
Alpha releases are very, very rarely A, needed, or B, anything that we want to see in the first place.
I was gonna say a good idea.
Well, I was about to say, they're never going to be a good idea, honestly, because if you just show us the alpha and you're like, hey, are you gonna buy it based on the alpha? The answer is almost universally, fuck no.
I mean, like, there's one game that I've played that I still go back to every now and then. 7 Days to Die. That shows a lot of promise, but it has been an alpha for so goddamn long that I'm like, I don't know if they're ever actually going to finish that. I don't know if they're ever actually going to release the game. I really don't. It's like, it has been an alpha for... I'm pretty sure we're going on 2 decades now.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Let me look that up here.
But I mean, the thing with alpha releases is that again, it's an alpha, so it's buggy, it's unfinished, the code's not there. And then B, God knows what they're actually going to keep in the final release. I mean, they might go from alpha to beta, and suddenly half the game's completely different. You're like, okay, well, why did I waste my time with the alpha?
Okay, so yeah, it's as of August 16th, it will have been in development and in alpha release for 10 years. Now, granted, they have made some significant updates, because originally it looked like fucking Minecraft. It just straight up looked like Minecraft. It was just, yeah, it was this blocky, quirky thing with zombies and everything. It's like, okay, looks interesting. Then they're like, no, we can do better. And then I guess
10 years later, we're still trying to figure out how do we do better.
Yeah, I mean they have made drastic improvements, I will say that. And apparently they got caught up in the whole Telltale fiasco. They had a deal with Telltale Games, and when Telltale went under, they're like, oh, shit, okay, what now? But yeah, it's just
any surprise that Telltale went under.
Honestly, I'm not surprised at all.
Neither am I. I only played a couple Telltale games, but I was like, these are not the kind of games that are going to sustain you. You need to, like, up something.
Yeah. I mean, I played a fair number of Telltale games. They love to license they would license just about anything. I mean, come on. They made a Wallace and Gromit game.
Oh, yeah.
Several.
But it's specifically the signature Telltale style that I have a problem with. It doesn't work for me. It doesn't feel like an actual game.
I don't know. I guess the Telltale style for me wasn't a big deal. It's like, okay, it's they have their own unique style. It's like, yeah, all right, I can get behind that. Never really had a problem with the style. It was, for me, it was very much the it was the kind of like, oh, well, we'll license this, and then we're gonna just, oh, well, it didn't make tons and tons of money, so fuck it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, but
maybe it's because the first Telltale game that I played, to my knowledge at least, was Tales from the Borderlands, and it was such a departure from the original and the feel of it that it just ruined it for me.
I could see that because you're expecting something that's Borderlands.
Yeah, you're expecting the run and gun, like, offbeat humor. You're in the world, Pandora is alive. And then Tales is more like being read a book.
Yeah. Yeah, I could definitely see that being a major issue, because it's like, yeah, that's one of those that I'm not. Yeah, I mean, Tales from the Borderlands, I liked it. But then I had played several Telltale games, so I knew what to expect from their company. It's like, okay, cool. But some of the stuff, like, I mean, they're, you know, they went full, like, they went balls deep on Tales of the Walking Dead.
Because why wouldn't they? It's Walking Dead. Surely that's going to make them money.
Yeah, and I don't know, I don't know how that one did, honestly, but it's like, but like
From what I recall, initially it did great, but it was because it was Walking Dead. It was relying on the name power.
Yeah.
And then as they went through, people just were like, oh, okay, this doesn't feel right. It's not Walking Dead. So it kind of eventually just tapered off from what I know.
Well, that, and I think one of the other big problems that they had as far as that series in particular was the fact that, okay, yeah, it's the Walking Dead universe, but it's not, you know, you're not playing the main group. You're not playing Rick and all of his crew. You're playing different people, and it's like, I think that was kind of one of those detrimental parts, that it's like, okay, people are expecting to be playing what they saw on the show. So they're expecting to be playing, you know, they're expecting to be playing Rick. They're expecting to be having to make this decision, the decisions that, you know, Rick had to face in the TV show. And it's like, but that's not what they were getting. And I think that's probably why it was like, yeah, okay. Yes.
Another issue I had with Tales from Borderlands is that they referenced the second group, like everybody from Borderlands 2, which at that point, I didn't really jive with Zero or Maya or any of them. Like, I hadn't quite settled into them yet. So I was like, okay, but where are the actual Vault Hunters? Where's Lilith? Where's Brick? Where's all them? Like, I want my Borderlands to come back. And then they told everybody it was non-canon. It's like, okay, well, did we even bother playing it if it's non-canon? And suddenly fast forward to Borderlands 3, and not only is it canon, but none of the choices mattered anyways.
Well, yeah, I mean, that comes back to the idea of, well, you know, you can have, oh, hey, you get to choose, you know, you get to make these decisions and stuff like that, sure, but you kind of, you know, at the end of the day, the developers, the programmers, the storytellers have to choose what are you going to take from here. It's like, this may, you know, your story may not have ended the way that it was, the way that is canon, but that's your story. That's not the story that we are continuing on with.
In that part, I do put more on Gearbox, because first it was Gearbox who said, hey, Tales is not canon. You don't have to play it. You know, we're not going to add it into anything. It's not really going to matter. It's just a fun little thing so that you can, you know, flesh out Pandora. You can get a little bit more idea of the life on it. I was like, okay, that's cool. Like, I can understand that. But then they threw Jack as the villain. And I was like, but why? Jack's dead. I was like, if this is supposed to be just, you know, some random people trying to live on Pandora, I don't want Handsome Jack there as the main villain, because that's just going to tie it into the main story again. Yeah. And then if this doesn't matter anyways, well, you just added Jack, which means if something happens, like, oh, say the ending where Jack does manage to come back by possessing a body, well, then that's going to be a major thing, ain't it? How are you going to say, oh, that doesn't matter, it's not canon?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the big problem that they face when they dealt with other people. Like the Sam and Max stuff, that was just, okay, yeah. So Sam and Max, it really doesn't matter that much. Nobody's gonna get up in arms about, oh, but this isn't Sam and Max or anything like that. But when you're talking about, when you're talking about things like, well, like Borderlands or like The Walking Dead or something like that, it's like, yeah, that now you're coming across with stuff that people are gonna look at that and say, okay, but so I continued on with Borderlands 3 and now I've got, now either, oh, I have to go back and play this, or it's like, but my choices were this and this and this, and you just kind of like, what were the right choices? What was the right path? Tell us what we were supposed to do. Don't just be like, oh, hey, so, yeah, you didn't get this ending, so yeah, even if you played Tales of the Borderland, you're gonna be completely fucking lost because, yeah, we decided to go a different route.
I mean, the way it felt to me is like they didn't just go a different route. They pick and choose from several different endings. So it's like, okay, so what you're basically saying is all possible endings happened, and yet none of them happened. Why do I care then? Why did you even throw this character back into Borderlands 3?
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I've not played Borderlands 3. I don't really plan on it until they like sell it for dirt fucking cheap.
The only reason they added that character, honestly, is because Borderlands 3 was supposed to wrap up. Like, it's supposed to, not wrap up, because it's sequel baited at the end. It's supposed to, tie in Borderlands 1 and 2. Like, and so everything that happened from those, what happened to Atlas? Why is Atlas not in Borderlands 2? Well, they went under, which is explained in Borderlands 2, but then Tales came out, and they're like, oh, but Reese wants to bring Atlas back. So everyone's like, okay, well, if he's bringing it back, are you going to bring it in Borderlands 3? And sure enough, they did. But because they brought Atlas in, they have to bring Reese in, but Reese was the main character of Tales. So now you have to decide on a canon ending. What happened to Reese?
Yeah.
It's like, that's why you don't do stuff like that. Because if you have a multiple ending, and then you're going to bring that character in, and you just decide, hey, all of the endings are canon, but really none of them are.
Yeah, that's yeah. What they should have done is been like, okay, so which ending was closest to what we want. That's the ending we go with, and we, that's how everything ended. That's what happened. Boom. Like, yeah, saying, okay, well, we're gonna take a little bit from this and a little bit from that, and this from this ending, that from that ending. It's like, yeah, that's just. Even the people who played the fucking game are gonna be like, what?
Well, that's been the biggest complaint about Borderlands 3 right now, is that if you're playing it for the story makes no goddamn sense.
Yeah, it's just, yeah. I don't know. I honestly, the Borderlands series, period, just being, like, I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little cynical here, but the Borderlands series having a story, period, for me is just like, I
mean,
fucking why?
The first one was good because it had, like, just enough story to guide you. So you got to have all the fun and neat, interesting characters. And you had just enough of story to keep you to like, lead you towards something. But you never felt confined. And then the second one came out, and it took getting used to, because suddenly, yeah, there's a main story, and all these characters that you met in the first one, suddenly they're part of the main cast, and they're all important. Who would have thought Scooter, the random redneck you met for one mission, in Borderlands 1 was suddenly going to become a main character.
Did they retcon his did they retcon his stuff in Borderlands 3?
Oh no, he's dead.
Okay.
He is super fucking dead.
That was always one of the things for me in Tales from the Borderland that's like, why? Just it felt like they were like that they were doing their best to go through everything and like, oh hey, so you like this character? Yeah, they're dead. Oh, you
Well,
like this
luckily-
character? They're an asshole now. Oh, you like
Oh,
this
no, no.
character? Nope, they're fucked.
Borderlands 3 is the epitome of, hey, did you like this character even slightly? Well, they die.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the thing is they did that very heavily in Tales from the Borderland.
Yeah.
And it was like,
Well, the one thing I do like is that they at least saved themselves. They covered their asses when it comes to Scooter's story. Because you still have to use the catch-a-ride system. You still have to, Borderlands 3 is all interplanetary, so you're on a giant spaceship. Well, Scooter would have been perfect for that because he's a fucking savant. But Scooter's dead. So who's your mechanic?
yeah, I was never happy with the way he went out. It's like, oh,
No,
so
that was shit.
it's like, oh, he got to put his big old billboard sign up in the air, and yeah.
Yeah, I was like, Scooter deserved to go out better than that.
Scooter deserved to survive. Period. It's like he
Well, I'm
should
saying,
never
even
die.
if you decided Scooter needed to die, he deserved a better death than that.
Oh yeah.
Like, let him go out punching the Destroyer or something.
Yeah, I mean, something at least semi worthwhile. But
Yeah,
damn, like,
but
yeah.
they did cover their ass at least. So now that Scooter is dead, they at least have Ellie, and Ellie takes over Scooter's role. And I was like, well, at least you established Ellie, and showed us that she's just as smart as Scooter and her mama. Because if you played the pre-sequel, you know that Moxie is just as mechanically inclined. So it's like, at least you got that. So they're both on the ship. They both help you out. They're both mechanics. It kind of feels like, hey, we realize we fucked up by killing Scooter, but at least we have Ellie.
Yeah. Anyway, give me just a moment here. I need to go to the bathroom again.
Okay.
Ditto.
Oh, I'm all alone now.
I'm sure there's plenty of people lurking.
Well, I didn't want to just sit here and ramble to myself.
I will say one thing that we brought up as far as Telltale games that they love to do that I honestly hate is they love to try and be like, you are responsible for this person's death type of shit.
Which is why?
Because their big push, their big, real focus is it's a choose your own adventure game. I mean, that's all their shit is. That's all it is it's one big choose your own adventure game.
Yeah, and I mean, to a point, sure, I understand it was my choice that led to this, but don't sit here and, like, push it into my face.
I mean, like, the Batman series? Oh yeah, they're like, oh yeah, if you can, people will die because of your choices. Same with the Walking Dead. It's like, whatever you choose, somebody's gonna die, and it's your fault. And it's like,
you know what? The Outer Worlds and Fallout have that too, and you know why they die? Because I chose to shoot them. I'll take responsibility for that one.
Yeah, it's like it's it's when it's their whole gimmick. It's kind of the fact that is their gimmick. It's like people will die because of your choice. You did this. And it's like
again, there's a time and place. Like, there are perfectly acceptable times where you can give the player a choice and be like, look, you can do this or you can do this, but if you do this, sure, it'll give you a more positive outcome, but there are lives on the line that are going to be destroyed if you do this. However, if you do this one, it's going to give you a less favorable outcome, but people will live. Which one do you want to do? That's cool, because that, like, makes me think. That gives me a feeling of gravitas about the choice. But if the entire game is like, no matter what, someone's going to die and it's going to be on you.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things, honestly, I prefer how I kind of prefer how Bethesda does it. Cuz like, at least like in Fallout 3. In Fallout 3, especially in one of their DLCs, it's like, okay, so this entire area is hit with this nasty plague that's affecting everybody. But there's this one kid who is immune to it. This one baby that's immune to it. Now, you can turn them over to the research facility that is going to poke and prod and do all this nasty shit to this baby in order to try and find a cure. Or you can take the kid away and say, fuck the region.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's a tough decision, yeah, kind of, but it's like, it's like, but there's, I mean, you can kind of justify it either way.
Yeah.
But it's very clearly spoken and very, very clearly pointed out and stuff like that, and it's like, yes, it's gonna have an effect, but it doesn't really affect your overall thing, and it's not like, oh, hey, by the way, everybody died and it's all your fault. It's like you're not they don't dwell on it like the Telltale
exactly
does.
Like, okay, I love how we're using Fallout and Outer Worlds as our big examples tonight. Like, I was just playing, and their big choice comes near the end, where, like, the whole game you've been trying to get towards these chemicals which can help you revive the frozen colonists on the Hope. And there's hundreds of thousands of lives on the Hope. But when you get to the lab where the chemicals are being kept, they're being kept by the evil corporation who you're fighting against, because they want to figure out how to cryogenically freeze people and revive them over and over and over again. And they have people in stasis. And the moment you take this chemical, if you take all of it, they die. If you don't take all of it, they live, but they're going to be in stasis, and you can't revive everybody on the Hope. So which do you do? And I'm like, oh, okay, that's a hell of a choice right there.
Yeah.
Because even though these guys in stasis in front of me are working for this corporation that I've been fighting against this entire time, they're not here by choice. They were kidnapped and thrown in these tanks. They're innocent. But on the other hand, I have hundreds of thousands of lives on the ship that I could save if I kill these 5 people.
Yeah.
That's how you do that trolley problem properly.
Well, now I'll never look at that meme the same way again. I haven't even really played this series, but...
Now,
Which meme? I'm curious now.
Hold on. With the meme, I just mean the trolley memes out there. With the series, I thought we were talking Borderlands.
Oh no, Borderlands never gives you a choice like that. Borderlands, like, people are gonna die either way. Just how do you want them to die?
See, this is what happens when I come back. I miss out what happened.
Yeah, we're talking about the Outer Worlds.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's like at least those they kind of give you an idea of what's coming and what's gonna happen and stuff like that. Like, okay, like going back to the Batman Telltale games, the series. The okay, well, you know, the joke, or the Riddler rather, is going to deafen you, or if you prevent yourself from being deafened, then it adds a tick to a bomb on somebody, and if it gets to three lights, the bomb explodes, killing that person. It's like Batman would absolutely deafen himself if it meant saving a life. That's his shtick.
He's probably already got a contingency in case he goes deaf.
Yeah, but it's it's like this. That's this big dilemma, and it's like that's not even a question that should ever be posed. It's Batman. And what were you saying, Ras?
I was going to say, probably get a giant arc about how he manages to cure his deafness for several issues.
Yeah.
If that. Depending on the writer, it could just be, oh, hey, remember when I went deaf 20 seconds ago? I'm good now.
But that, and I one of the things I saw somebody play a few episodes of the first season of the Batman stuff, and it's like they screw with the Batman story and stuff like that so much that it's just like I had to check right the hell out. I did. One of the big things in the first season is Bruce Wayne gets put into an asylum and meets up with this with Jack White, who's, obviously he's the Joker, and they get, and you can be buddy with the Joker before knowing that the Joker is this villain, and it's like, what the it's one of those things where it's like, this is so far out in left field that it's like, it reads like bad fan fiction to me.
And again, that a lot of that is just depending on the writer.
I mean, it's just the story arc of, before the Joker became this known major villain to Batman, they were friends. And it's like, just no.
For some villains that works. For Joker, no.
Yeah, the Joker doesn't play the long con like that. There's no way he would be able to maintain that.
Well, I mean, it's not even that. It's the sheer point of Joker is that he doesn't have a point.
Yeah.
Or he has multiple ones because, well...
Yeah, I mean, I always like that where it's like, yeah, I do remember my past. I remember all my past. They're fucking multiple choice.
If you're going to have a past, you may as well have it be multiple choice. You know, I've never watched the animated version of that, but as I own a copy of the printed version, I can't not hear it in Mark Hamill's voice.
Yeah.
That is one thing that he has died on everybody's memory, is that you hear Joker 99% of the time you're hearing Hamill. Or a damn good impression of Hamill, honestly.
You know, I'm kind of interested to see. I'm kind of interested to see what James Gunn does with Batman and the Joker in particular.
I don't know. I mean, I just watched a little bit of the Suicide Squad tonight, and I was like, I mean, I liked Gunn's Marvel work. I don't know if he fits well with DC.
I don't know. I mean, here's my reasoning for saying that I'm interested to see what he's doing, what he'll do with it. It's because it's not just, oh, hey, you're in charge of this one property that's kind of, sort of, but not really tied into everything. Like, we're, yeah, here's this version of the Joker that you can play with and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, but it's not really connected with anything else. It kind of is, but it kind of isn't. And it's like, I think giving him control over the DCEU in general is going to give him a lot more opportunities, a lot more, he can design it how he wants. He's not restricted to, okay, here's the toys that we're allowing you to play with. They're the shitty ones.
I mean, they technically did that, giving him a Suicide Squad.
Not really. They really limited him on what he could what he could bring in, what he was allowed to do, what he was allowed to play with. Because he couldn't really do much with Batman.
Yeah.
I mean, he was allowed to have a Batman cameo, and that was about it. But opening it up and saying, look, you can do what you want with it. You can write everything the way you want it. I really don't think he would bring Jared Leto back as Joker. I just, the fact that he's like wiping the slate clean and been like, look, we're starting from scratch. We're ditching. We are starting anew. We haven't decided who's gonna play what character or anything like that.
Yeah. Honestly, I just like the fact that he flat out said that he found Polka Dot Man to be the dumbest villain in history.
Yeah.
I was like, honestly, I'll give you points for that, because I never saw the point of Polka Dot Man.
I mean, what were the other options? Condiment King, Crazy Quilt.
Yeah, well, I mean, I had to explain, like, my brother's a big Batman fan, but he's into it more recently, and, the whole master detective, brooding, angsty playboy Bruce Wayne. And I was like, okay. And he saw Polka Dot Man in Suicide Squad. He's like, who the hell is that? I was like, that's Polka Dot Man. He's like, what's his gimmick? I was like, that is his gimmick. Polka dots.
Yeah.
It was very hard to explain original Polka Dot Man versus movie Polka Dot Man because they gave him an actual power set and reason to exist in the Suicide Squad. He's like, well, what is he in the comic books? It was like, he's just a guy. He uses polka dots. He's like, okay, do they explode? Are they special? It's like, no, they're polka dots.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, honestly, yeah, DC had some just. Oh, some of the insane fucking villains that they came up with. It's like.
Well, let's look at some of their. I mean, do you remember Kite Man? He's rocketed a little to fame recently.
Yeah, I was about to say, Polka Dot Man still made more sense to me, or Polka Dot made less sense to me than Kite Man.
And Kite Man's actually in the comics had some story arcs. Yeah, it's not just the newfound Harley Quinn show fame.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite DC villains of all time, and I get looked at funny for this, is Snowflame.
Okay. I'm not familiar with the character, so.
If it's the one, it's hilarious.
Yes, it is. And the best part is the fan-made comics since are just amazing.
Okay, so let's make this fun. When you hear the name Snowflame, what do you think of?
I have no idea, honestly.
The first thing that pops into your head, because I guarantee you it is not going to be as good as his actual story.
I mean, that's the thing. Nothing pops into my head. It's just, other than the words, what the fuck?
Okay, so Snowflame, a lot of people thought he was going to be a contradictory villain. We're like, okay, he has maybe ice powers, but he can control flames as well. Nope.
Not even close.
His power is the magical power of cocaine.
It is his god.
And no, we're not exaggerating. We're not making fun. That is his literal backstory. He snorted a shit ton of cocaine, became a supervillain. That's how he gets his superpowers.
He is literally got crazy, spiritual, weird powers that only intensify if he gets his hands on a bag.
Okay.
And in an era where the war on drugs isn't really much of a thing, we're hoping, or at least not as much as it used to be, my gods.
Yeah, that's the best part. He wasn't even created in the 80s, so he wasn't created during the war on cocaine.
Now, fans have come along, made long story arcs for him, and the best one I've seen yet is that before he became possessed by a spirit of cocaine, he was just this asshole, smuggler. And the actual thing that has possessed him, that has turned him into Snowflame, has given him something of a conscience. Like, he's still a supervillain who's trying to make sure everyone has free access to cocaine.
Basically, if you want Snowflame, take Dr. Roxo, boil him down, and make him a tad bit more serious.
He's only ever in one issue of one comic book, and yet he is still beloved.
I mean, come on, this is absolutely batshit. Even in the world where people get powers from, nuclear meltdowns or finding a voodoo doll in the street, this guy just snorted coke. That was it. I don't even remember whose villain he was.
I think it was New Guardians or something. But it's... It was a strange comic series to begin with.
Yeah.
But my gods on toast with the side of Gouda. DC, if you are listening, we want Snowflame. You have enough shows on that are R-rated that he would not be out of place.
My God, you could put him in a Punisher comic and he would be perfect.
Well, Punisher's Marvel, though. What are our DC
I
offerings?
know, I'm just saying, Snowflake, one of the few villains, you can put him anywhere in any comic book universe, and you can find a use for him.
Oh my gods, if he teamed up with Deadpool.
Oh my God, Deadpool would love him. She'd be like, so how do you get your powers? Cocaine? No, really, Coke. We're gonna be friends.
I mean, come
But-
on. This is you know, you're talking about the version of Deadpool that literally tried to kill himself by ODing on cocaine.
And Snowflame could help with that.
A Snowflame would probably be in that room and be like, so Wade, I understand what you're trying to do, but you don't understand. You have just made my Valhalla.
Snorting race.
Oh no, it wasn't even that. Remember, it was just a big bag of cocaine stuffed up in the mask and then punches himself in the face. Deadpool 2.
That's the problem. He got the dose wrong.
But
I mean, technically it did kill him for a short time, and then he came back.
See, I was wondering if they were actually going to add that into the MCU was the Thanos, Deadpool, and Death love triangle.
Well, no, because Thanos in the MCU had nothing to do with Lady Death.
I know. I was saying when they first announced Thanos, I was like, we're
Yeah.
gonna bring.
But seriously though, throw Snowflame onto Peacemaker. That is John Cena's show, right? I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or Harley Quinn. He will fit in perfectly in either one.
Are you kidding me? Harley would probably love him.
Harley, what do you think? Him and Ivy, my gods. Oh, hello, you can make any plant stronger? I have here this cocoa leaf.
I have a coca plant, and I understand you're taking charge of Gotham's drugs anyways?
He wouldn't even want money. He would just want to spread the cocaine everywhere.
He would be very confused when he meets some other heroes, though.
Oh my God! I just remembered something that I wanted to pose this question to you. So this is somebody I follow on Twitter earlier today posted this question. It was purely hypothetical.
Oh, that's never good.
If Marvel could get Peter Parker Spider-Man, and just Peter Parker Spider-Man, from Disney by trading them Wolverine, just Wolverine, none of the other X-Men, just Wolverine, should they do it?
Years ago, I'd have said yes, but now they've just milked Spider-Man, so no.
I want to hesitate and say go for it, but at the same time, I'm kind of scared of what Disney would do with Wolverine.
Well, no, Sony would get Wolverine. Disney owns Wolverine now. Disney would trade Wolverine to Sony in order to get Peter Parker's
Okay, see,
Spider-Man.
that's still a very odd question to wonder about.
Now, I say no for a very simple reason. How good do you think Spider-Man is going to be without any of his rogues gallery, without MJ, without Ned, without J. Jonah Jameson, without anybody else from his continuity? All the other characters that Sony has, they keep. You only get Peter Parker's Spider-Man.
They'd have to team him up with someone. It would wind up being Deadpool or the X-Men.
I mean,
Because
well,
he's not...
they could do with a Fantastic Four.
Hold on.
if he's Bagman.
This is the other problem. Which Peter Parker?
Well, no, it's not a specific act. It's not a specific actor. It is the character of Peter Parker's Spider-Man. So Sony could then go on to make a live-action Spider-Man that's Miles Morales, but they couldn't use Peter Parker anymore.
The hilarious part about Into the Spider-Verse actually introducing multiple Peters.
But yeah, my thought is like, yeah,
which Peter?
well, no, it's any Peter Parker that becomes Spider-Man, you get him. That would be Marvel. So like I said, Sony could do a Miles Morales, they could do a Spider-Man 2099, they could do a Peter Parker,
they could do Ben.
Yeah, they could do they could do anything other than Peter Parker Spider-Man.
Actually, that would give them a great opportunity to not only do Ben, but they could do what was it, Superior Spider-Man.
Yeah. But my problem would be, again, it's like you would have the hero, but you'd have nobody that the hero is connected with directly with. So, like I said, you couldn't have Doc Ock, you couldn't have Venom, you couldn't have Lizard, you couldn't have J. Jonah Jameson, you couldn't have any of the side characters. None of the side characters would go to Marvel. So it'd be like, I mean, it'd be great for ensemble pieces, but that's about all Spider-Man would be relegated to. Would be ensemble pieces.
God, it's not even an Aunt May.
Exactly. Not that that's a big deal, but
You'd have to either build new characters around him made for the MCU at that point, which would be a hell of a creative challenge.
It would be a hell of a creative challenge, and you know for a fact that the fans would absolutely just rake them over the coals.
Or, like you said, you'd have to combine him in an ensemble, and he's had his time with the Avengers. The X-Men are the next obvious thing, and palling around with Deadpool, and in the absence of a Wolverine that Ryan Reynolds has so campaigned for, would be the next thing.
But yeah, I think, you know, as a hypothetical, it's like, yeah, it would be just, it would be an absolute travesty of a trade, because it's like I said, you know, you lose all that makes that character that character.
And I just realized, okay, he's going to wind up palling around with, he'll wind up on She-Hulk because that's one of his best friends in the comics. And Daredevil because, oh hey, Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah.
All the Defenders, really. He'd wind up as a Defender, probably.
Yeah, he would honestly, I think he would just be like, he would feel like this tacked on thing that doesn't have his own, wouldn't be able to have his own stories, because like I said, you know, that's all you get is you just get the Peter Parker Spider-Man, nothing else. And it's like that yeah, it's like nothing about that would be a good trade. It's like that would just be, yeah, that would be a travesty, I think.
I was about to say, I mean, you know, for years Peter and Spider-Man was treated as just a tack on for a lot of things, so that wouldn't be that different, but we have got used to him actually being his own thing.
But look at the flip of that. What would Sony do with Wolverine? Because Wolverine is at least partly reliant on X-Men. Like, even in the Wolverine origin stuff and the Wolverine, other X characters show up.
I mean, even anything going in the future, it's like, I mean, honestly, I kind of want them to bring. I kind of want them to bring, you know, obviously they're going to probably actually first have Wolverine show up in Deadpool. I kind of hope that they also bring him into the main MCU outside of Deadpool, outside of like the multiverse crossover thing happening. I really want them to really introduce him into the main MCU in the next Hulk. solo picture. Provided that Universal doesn't decide, oh no, we're going to keep the rights to the distribution rights to the Hulk. I want them to actually bring in Wolverine and the Hulk. I want to see Wolverine introduced into the MCU the way he was introduced in the comics.
As someone for the Hulk to run away from?
Well, someone for the Hulk to fight.
Can we have villain Wolverine finally?
I mean, I think they should.
We've gotten very attached to the current incarnations of things. We tend to forget, Wolverine was originally a villain. Deadpool was originally a villain.
Yeah.
Rogue, Black Widow, Hawkeye, technically, I think. Falcon.
Also, please, if we're getting redos, can we, for the love of God, please have a redo of Gambit?
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, I don't think there's any question about that.
I think everyone of any Cajun and or Creole descent is definitely in agreement with that right now.
I love the fact they tried to make like not just the comic book versions, but they tried to harken back to like the animated series version. And the kid in me was like, "Oh, honey, no, this is nowhere near. This is not my." But then again, what did I expect? They also screwed up Rogue, like just a little bit, but just enough for you to be like, "This is off."
Yeah.
I honestly just didn't like Anna Paquin as Rogue.
She didn't really play it as well as she could have. I didn't like how to put it. I didn't like shrinking violet neurotic Rogue. I was always the fan of, this is who I am. I know that I can't do this, but I found other ways. I don't give a shit, Rogue.
I was going to say, oh, look, they've confused Rogue and Kitty Pryde, but oh, look, they put them both in, and now there's two shrinking violets.
And then they didn't even use Kitty the right way.
They did not.
I mean,
And they put Jubilee in the background.
to be fair, that incarnation of the X-Men was an abomination from the beginning.
I mean, there are parts of it I like. Hugh Jackman, absolutely spectacular cast. Marsden, I actually liked Marsden as Cyclops. Halle Berry, I still feel was a miscast.
Their casting wasn't the bad part. Their casting wasn't the bad part. It was everything else.
Yeah.
It was, oh hey, everybody just has generic black leather outfits.
Yeah, the yellow spandex line made me laugh, and then I immediately punched the wall.
Yeah, basically they wanted the characters, but they didn't want anything else. They wanted the names and the powers, and that was it.
Which is what fucked him over with Deadpool. They wanted the name. They wanted Wade, but they didn't want the character himself.
Well, yeah, I mean they replaced a character with Wade Wilson in the movie in Wolverine Origin. He was never part of Wolverine's covert ops team.
Oh yeah.
It was Wolverine, Sabretooth, Maverick was the one that was
Silver Fox.
Yeah, but Maverick was the one that was supposed to be in place of Deadpool. They were all supposed to be mutants with the exception of Silver Fox. It wasn't supposed to be, oh, well, there's this random guy that's, that's part of their covert ops team that just doesn't have any real powers until he gets them from, the Weapon X the weapon program. It's like, no, that was supposed to be Maverick, who can absorb and repurpose kinetic energy. You can shoot him 100 times, and then he can punch you with every ounce of kinetic energy from those bullets. But instead of doing that, they're like, no, let's throw Wade Wilson in there. It's like, why? That and having John Walker I think it was was it John Walker?
Which one?
The guy that the one that was played by Will.i.am. The cowboy hat wearing teleport.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. I cannot for the life of me remember his name right now.
Hang on.
Personally, I think the problem I have with those movies isn't just the story,
Right.
though. It's also underutilization of the cast.
Okay.
Yes, so many missed opportunities.
It was John Wraith.
That's right, because they always make the names a pun. Oh, hello, line of enemies just waiting for me to destroy you.
And this is harkening back to casting again, but you know who I really wanted to play Storm?
Who?
Angela Bassett. And at least, she just won an Oscar recently.
That could have been fun.
Yeah, she won an Oscar recently for her role in Black Panther, which, okay. But I really just wanted to see a version of Storm that would, when Toad is approaching her menacingly, would say, you know what? Fuck my powers, I don't need them for you. Toad going, what? And Storm just decking him. And that's what I could have seen Angela Bassett's Storm doing.
I want our actual Aurora. No, fuck this. I came from a whole different culture, whole different thing. And by the way, my powers are secondary.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the question. If they were to put Jubilee back in, which iteration of Jubilee would you want?
Days of Future Past version.
I want to see the old school, these are our embarrassing OCs, please don't look at them, version of some characters. Which means I want Roller Disco Queen Jubilee.
The Mall Rat. Yeah, the Mall Rat Jubilee.
That I could settle for Mallrat, but I did always
the
like
Mall
Days of
Rat with
Future
the
Past.
yellow trench coat is one thing, but I want the roller skates, the absolute neon, the hideous, and makes a bad pun every 3 seconds Jubilee.
Oh, yeah.
Bring back our embarrassing characters. Like shit, if we keep making Batman movies and we want to make Robin and Nightwing in them, bring Disco Wing into it.
They really do need to do bring in a Robin, but a Robin that isn't just there as comic relief.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is that they want to bring in Robin, but A, they don't know which Robin they want to bring in, and B, what is missing in a lot of these movies is something that people are not going to admit, which is comics, although they're amazing and we love them and Batman is great, comics are inherently cheesy. 90% of the action in comics isn't the decking and the fighting and the, oh god, it's so angsty. It's them just joking around and making one-liners.
Or inner monologues and watching.
Yeah. We
And
need
even-
the fucking goofiness. We need the embarrassing characters.
And just like, say, when you convert a manga, and I do mean specifically a manga, to live action, over in Japan, they do one horrible thing with it. They try and emulate the comic perfectly down to the angle of the shot.
Exactly. Like, you go
can't do
watch
that.
the horrible, well, not horrible. You go watch, like, the live-action Death Note. And they
Oh
did
gods.
They did. They tried to emulate the book.
I
And it didn't
yeah.
work.
Jellyfish Princess is what I was thinking of. I love that manga, but my gods, they butchered it when they live actioned it. Anime, fine, because anime can follow some of the same tropes. But
But again, there's some animes that should just not be adapted to live action, like Bleach.
right. I admit I really don't watch or read Bleach, but
Okay.
I dread the day my favorite anime gets opted for a live action on either side of the Pacific.
Oh?
If Legend of the Galactic Heroes gets optioned, I know it's going to get butchered. I already don't like the reboot they did of it.
Well, I mean, Bleach was just a bad choice in the first place because Bleach hinges on gigantic ghost creatures. That does not lend itself to live action no matter what you do.
Whereas if it's an anime or a manga, the creatures in question have the same level of detail as the humans on the screen.
Exactly. Like, I mean, Pacific Rim was okay. But at the same time, that's because you put kaiju against giant robots. That's CG versus CG. You're not really looking for, oh, hey, that looks really fake. You're looking for, hey, the action in this is really great. But when it comes to Bleach, you're looking at an actor who is now fighting CG, and you're going, my god, this looks dumb.
Okay, we've been going for about, over 3 hours and 15 minutes at this point. I think it's about time to
You
call
always
it a
say,
night.
wow. 3 hours is like
Yep.
our baseline anymore.
It's kind of becoming, yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
I mean, obviously, as in last week, I'm not always awake for all of it, but
True.
Neither am I. So, no shame there.
I think I'm about the only one that hasn't fallen asleep.
That's because you're the host. If you fall asleep, the whole stream dies.
Yeah, that's when things get really bad.
see, I take this as a challenge. Now we have to find a subject you have zero interest in, and you have to be in your bed at the time.
I think that's exactly why he keeps reminding us that we went over 3 hours. As we're starting to
Point.
approach on topics he has nothing to say.
No. It's more along the lines of, I am starting to get tired and I want to go to bed.
That's fair.
Okay, we'll give you that one.
All right, so you guys want to say goodnight to everybody?
Good night, everybody.
Good night, all.
All right. As always, thank you guys very much for watching. If you liked the video, don't forget to hit the like button. If you're new here, don't forget to press the subscribe button. If you want to be kept up to date of when we go live and stuff like that, make sure to ring the bell, but also check out the social media links down below, the Facebook page, the Twitter account, the Tumblr account, and the permanent invite for the Discord server. All that so that you can stay tuned for more from Ollamh Productions. Cheerio!